Okay, I think we might have volume now. I'm gonna wait a second and see if that is working. Sit here and do nothing. Maybe. It looks like it's working. Oh, yay. Okay, there we go. We are all here now. And there we go. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. Tonight I'm working with Powder Blender. I have links to where you can buy this in the description, but they're actually old links. I think there's more places you can get it if this is something you're interested in. Go to brushandpencil.com. They've got a new website and it's way easier to find stuff, but they had a link of all the places where this stuff was available, which was pretty cool, and I probably should have just copy pasted from there, but you know, I didn't think that far ahead until right now. So moving along, this project I'm working on sanded paper. This is from Pro Art Panels. Pro Art. I have a link. I don't know where I get stuff. It's been a while. I think it's proartpanels.com. This one is the Fisher400. I also like the, what is it? UArt500 is also a really good one. This one is pre-mounted, so you can see it's basically big thick piece of board, so I don't have to tape it onto anything. These are really nice to work on. If you've not worked on a pre-mounted board, seriously recommend them. They make everything way easier. I've mounted my own before. I don't enjoy the process. I don't plan to do that again if I can keep having somebody else do it for me and have it done correctly. I feel like I end up with less waste that way because I would end up with extra paper, kind of like when you wrap a present. See, I have the same problem when I do my own gallery wrapping for canvases. You end up with excess, and I'd rather just let the company do it. Less waste there, and I feel like I'm saving money actually than me wasting a bunch of product. So this one is the sanded paper. I'm going to be using my polychromos. Now with Powder Blender, you want to use an oil-based pencil for the portions that you know you're going to be blending with Powder Blender. You can use your wax-based pencils, but save those for the end where you're doing final detail, where you know you don't need Powder Blender to blend at that point. So for everything tonight, I'll just be using my polychromos. The Derwent, which one is it? The Derwent Pro Color also blends well with these. So let's go ahead and get started. I've already set out a bunch of gray pencils, so this will actually be not super colorful tonight. This photograph, the photographer, I have the name of the photographer and the model in the description. My friend Jimmy, who, if you want to follow him, he's over on Instagram as Jimmy the Dressmaker. I have a link to his Instagram below. He has started designing clothing, and this one is a Beetlejuice inspired one. So the portrait is going to be kind of interesting because I'm going to fade, which I won't get to tonight. Tonight I'm going to focus on the background, but I'm going to end up fading black and white on this portion, and it's going to come into the color of the portrait as the photograph was taken. But I'll do the green in her hair and just kind of get that hint of Beetlejuice in there to stay with the theme. But Jimmy's Instagram is fun to follow. He posts himself in dresses quite often too. He's hilarious. His posts are fun. Definitely check him out. So, but this was one of his designs, this dress. So that is what I am working on now. And let's go ahead and start. I'm just going to start with the medium gray. I'm using warm grays for this. Warm gray, I've got a Payne's gray, which is a little bit cooler, and then my dark sepia. My dark sepia I'll probably use more. The Payne's gray I'm going to keep on this side because it's cooler, keeping it warmer on this side. And that is what I'm going. So let's go ahead. I will start recording this, and we can get going. What do I want to start with? Let's go with, actually I'm just going to go ahead and use my dark sepia for the base of most of this. I can probably just cover this on the entire thing just so that I'm not fighting the white of the paper or cream of the paper, whatever color we want to call that. So I don't need to do anything first. This paper is non-absorbent, and that is very, very important when you're working with Powder Blender. You either want gessoed paper or sanded paper. I like sanded paper because I don't have to gesso it myself, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm just lazy. The gesso paper worked fine, but I had to airbrush the gesso on it, and again with the whole lazy factor. So I'm really liking the sanded paper that's already ready to go. It's kind of like with my canvases, I can just grab it and get started, and that's the case here. So I don't need to spray anything or do anything first. I can just go ahead and start filling this in. Look how messy I can be too. I don't need to worry about my pencil strokes. All of this is going to blend out. Now, I don't want to push very hard. That's a big deal. If you push too hard, what's going to happen is the pencil, it's almost like it jams in too much and it doesn't blend well then with the Powder Blender. So let's pull this up a little. The drawing board I have behind this might not be great. This is a 16 by 20 inch I'm working on. And I think one of the things that's really interesting about this is, for me with color to pencil, I typically don't go bigger than like an 11 by 14. unless I'm airbrushing a background. If I'm going to airbrush the background, then I'll go ahead. I mean, that saves a lot of time. So then I can go ahead and work larger. But if it's something that I'm going to do all colored pencil, I did it one time. I did a tiger on a 16 by 20. And while I love the look, I love how much detail you can get when you work bigger, oh my gosh, it took forever. It was so much work. So what I like about this is that I'm going to be able to fill in a large area very quickly. So if you have a tendency to be impatient, you didn't really love colored pencil because it was slow, this can be a great solution for you. I mean, you still have to do the detail. It's not like it instantly does all the work for you, but I can get a large area, as you can see in here, filled in very quickly. And I'm going to do this in several layers. Let's see. Katrina wants to know how to use the powder blender again. Well, that's what I'm showing you tonight, so you were at the right place. Okay, so I've got to make sure when I get around the hair, just want to curve that around. I'm not going to worry about the little wisps that are sticking out. That can go on top. This is a really nice medium too, or way to work, because I don't have to worry. Like if I were working in regular colored pencil, and I say regular colored pencil, these are regular colored pencil, but if I were blending with like odorless mineral spirits, when I get the little wisps of hair, those are hard to make stand out. With this on sanded paper, and that's just the nature of sanded paper in general, I love, because, which I didn't expect to. I was surprised the first time I used it because I really thought I'd hate it, being that it has so much tooth, but stuff sticks to it really well. It's got a lot of tooth, so you can put the little wisps over your dark background and they still show up. Very nice. Now, you will feel like you're burning through your pencils super fast, but the reality of it is that you're just filling in a large area very fast, much faster. I mean, what I just did right now normally would have taken me maybe 30 minutes, and I just did it in, 30 seconds. So that's why you're going to feel like you're burning through pencils fast. You're not going through them faster than you normally did. It's just that you're completing the work faster, so of course you're going to sharpen them more. What kind of powder do I use? This is called Powder Blender. It's made by Brush and Pencil. If you go to brushandpencil.com, I've got links in the description. Aliona Nicholson invented it. She is the one who wrote the Colored Pencil Bible and the Colored Pencil Portrait book, which I don't remember the exact name of. I've got the links to those in the description too. It sounds like I'm like selling, or it's not well, they are affiliate links to Amazon, but it sounds like I'm working for her. I'm not, I promise. But she is a friend of mine though, so I guess there's that. But anyway, this is the only product that is going to work this way. I have people ask, well, can I just use this powder or can I use that powder? No, it's not the same. This was invented specifically for colored pencil. It's meant to work with this, and it's archival. It's an amazing product, but there's nothing else that's going to work the same or do the same thing. I've had people try, what was it? There was a blender they tried from, was it Pan Pastels? Again, not the same stuff. It's not going to work the same. I'm already getting to the point where I need to sharpen that pencil again. So see what I mean? It'll feel like you're going through it faster, but look how much area I've already covered. Let's see. Gloria said, so really can only use the powder blender on sanded paper. You need it on something that is non-absorbent. So you can also use it on gessoed paper, where I've used my Fabriano Artistico and then airbrushed gesso over it. I was then able to, okay, wait, I'm losing my place here. I was able to let that dry for a night, and then I could go on top and use that. So you can use regular paper if you cover it in gesso first. It worked well, but it was more work than I personally enjoy putting into things. I like to just grab my paper and get started like this one. So it's not a method that you'll often see me use. And I don't know that I really had a preference as far as like how it felt to work on gessoed paper versus sanded paper. They both worked fine for me. This one's just way easier to prep because I don't have to prep anything. Another reason that I like getting these art or the pre-mounted panels, this product is not flexible, so you don't want to work with it and then like roll it in a tube or anything like that. You need to keep it flat, and this board helps maintain that. Paul said, ever think of using Pan Pastels for a background? Save those pencils. So I just talked to the people again last night. I emailed them. They're really good about getting back to me. I'm really bad about checking my email though. But anyway, they are sending me a small sample of some Pan Pastels to demonstrate for you guys. So that is coming very, very soon. Ugh, pastels. I blame you guys for this, because I would not, like, when they contacted me, if it weren't for how many requests I get from you guys wanting me to use them, I probably wouldn't have done it. So, the things I do for you guys. Where's Chicken? His spot's empty. I know, I don't want him in here because I'm going to be spraying the texture fixative, and I don't like to have birds in the room where I'm spraying anything, because they are just so sensitive to everything, even though it's non-toxic. Birds with just the way that they're built, I don't like them being in the room when anything's scented, anything's sprayed, like hairspray, nothing like that. So, he is not in here tonight, unfortunately. Whoops. Ooh, now that's something you don't see every day. My lead from Polychromos broke off. We'll just go ahead and use that really quick in the little area. That's interesting. I've only had that happen maybe 3 times in all the years I've been using Polychromos. I don't know why sometimes that happens. It might be my pencil sharpener. Actually, I'm using the X-Acto School Pro. And this one, my first one was really good. And Amazon had screwed something up, and they lost the first one, and then they sent me a replacement, but then they ended up like a week later sending me the first one. It was weird. Anyway, I ended up with 2. So the first one, when the blades got dull, I grabbed the second one that I hadn't opened yet. Went ahead and started using this one, and this one sharpens weird. Like, I think they're installed wrong or it's defective, because I've had a lot of problems with this that I did not have with the first one. So I don't know if that's just typical of the X-Acto School Pro or if this one happens to be defective. I don't know I mean, it's only a sample size of 2, so I'm not sure which to go with there. Part of me is like, well, I should buy another one, but I don't want another defective one like this, so I haven't decided yet. If you guys are using this pencil sharpener, the X-Acto School Pro electric sharpener, if it is working well for you, let me know, because if you guys are liking it, I may go ahead and buy a new one. I loved my first one. My first one was perfect, but I've had some weird breakages and stuff with this one. Did I freehand the portrait? No, not this one. I put this one together last minute last night, like really last minute. I needed to, I'm gonna throw my pencil on the floor. I needed to get my newsletter out, which meant I needed the live stream ready to go, and I just needed to throw something together really, really quickly. So no, I did not want to take the time to freehand this out. Not that you would have been able to tell the difference if I had. Curtis said that he contacted Holbein about their colored pencils, and they said they are doing testing, but some of the colors are extremely toxic and they won't sell them until fixed. That's interesting and kind of disturbing at this. I'm glad that they're doing that, but oh, that's kind of scary with how many people have been using them here. So I'm going to switch over to the Payne's. No, I'm going to just do this for the whole base layer, actually. Change my mind constantly. As you can see, I tell you guys this all the time because I know a lot of people get worried about choosing the right color. There's no one right or wrong way to do something. Like, I mean, I could do this 20 different ways and the end result would pretty much be the same. As far as like which color going first and how, I'm going to put so many layers on here. At this stage, it really doesn't make a huge deal. One of the things that I really want to do on this background is use the powder blender. They have their colored pencil, the powdered white. What do they call it? The colored pencil titanium white. I'm going to use that for some of the softness where you apply it with, I'll apply it with a pan pastel sponge. So that should give some fun effects. So I'm going a little darker. This color is actually a bit darker than what I would want the end result to be. Although once I blend out, it'll be lighter anyway. Kathleen said, I got mine 2 months ago and it's amazing. Can't even sharpen my pastel pencils with, oh, you can sharpen it with the pastels and they don't break. Working beautifully. So yeah, this one I bet is just defective. The box that it came in, because it had been lost for like a week, it was crushed. So maybe that's all it is to do with it. It's not like they're terribly expensive. I mean, I want to say it was like $20 or $25. So it's not like I'm out $300 or something if it doesn't work out well, I guess. Piccola Art says, your internet connection is great. What camera do you use, and do you know your upload speed, and do you use OBS? I don't know my upload speed. My internet is like the fastest you can get, but that doesn't seem to matter because it drops connection constantly. I am using OBS. Like I said, I have no idea what my upload speed is. The camera I'm using right now is my Logitech. It's in I think it's in the description. It's a Logitech one. The one that's on my face is just from my laptop, but the one on my camera or on my easel, that one is a Logitech something, some numbers in a letter. helpful, aren't I? So this is why I have to write stuff in the description, because I don't remember stuff like this. Look how fast that first layer, like, this is one, every time I use this, I'm just in love all over again. I love, because, I mean, I'm coming from, my primary medium forever was acrylics. That is a very fast medium to work in. I can get a huge painting done really, I mean, if I wanted to, I could get a huge painting done in like 3 days with tons of detail. But with colored pencil, it was always so slow. So I love the fact that I can use this product and work at my acrylic painting speed. Let's see, this loop, actually, the hair is just wispy there. I don't really want that open, so we'll fill this in now. And then I can blend my first layer. I love being messy and scribbly, because you can't do that normally. So I'm like, I feel like I'm being bad. I'm breaking all the rules of colored pencil by just scribbling all over. Okay, so let me grab my powder blender. And it's just this little container. It's actually a lot like a makeup container. So it has just a teeny bit in there that you'll let come out. And this lasts forever. The thing that I go through the fastest is I just inhaled a bunch. Good thing that's non-toxic. The one that I go through the fastest, so if you're going to buy some and you need to buy extra of something, I would say the Texture Fixative and the big can, which I'll be using in a minute, and then the Touch-Up Texture Titanium White. That I go through faster than anything else, I think. Because I've had people ask me how long it lasts. It lasts a really, really long time. Except for those 2 products. Those I go through, like I said, a little bit faster. And the can actually lasts a decent amount of time. I did maybe 4 paintings with this, big size, before I had to replace it. Okay. I'll probably just use this. So these are the soft tools like that typically are used for pen pastels. I'm probably just going to use this one. It's dirty, but I'm just dirty with black. I don't need to clean that. I'm mixing all dark, so it's fine. What mediums were my least preferred? Watercolor forever, but now I'm all in love with watercolor pencil, so I don't even know if I can technically say that anymore. So you don't need a lot of powder blender on this brush, by the way. See how it's nice and smooth. Now, one of the things, when I first started using this, I was kind of scared because, back to the question, I would say that pastels are probably my least favorite because I don't like how they feel on my hands and they're very messy. But anyway, going back to this. So when I first started using the powder blender, I was concerned because it's like, okay, look how dark. I used a really dark gray pencil. You would think that this would come out very, very dark. Well, it doesn't come out that dark for the first layer. That's why I'm going to spray my Texture Fixative and keep layering until I get it as dark as I want. So you're still layering like you would blending with odorless mineral spirits. You're still going to do this in layers, but each layer is really fast. I don't have to be super careful around her hair. I would rather have the background overlap on top of her hair than not quite enough and end up with a halo effect. And as it starts not blending quite as much, I'll go ahead and reload some powder blender. And this doesn't, like I said, doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. I'm going to be putting lots of layers on top of this, so I don't need to waste a ton of time making everything absolutely perfect. Let's see. Is powder blender kind of a cheat since the blending is more easy? And wouldn't you spend as much time as if you instead use the Mona Lisa colorless blender? No, this is way faster. As far as a cheat, you can't cheat in art. I never understood that like concept, and I don't know if this is what you specifically mean, but I always laugh when people are like, if you use these tools, it's cheating. If you use this, it's cheat. If you use a projector, it's cheating. You can't cheat in art. It's not math. Like, there's no cheating. Either you made something cool or you didn't make something cool. That's it. I mean, okay, unless you're violating someone's copyright, then that's, I'd call that cheating. But no, there is no cheating. There's no, either you made cool art or you didn't. And I don't know if that's exactly what you meant. But, no, I mean, you're still having to use the same techniques the same concepts as far as understanding contrast, understanding your values, understanding good composition, the things that apply in art apply across the board no matter what medium you're working in or how you're applying it. I don't care what tool somebody uses to get there, or like in this case, if it's faster, for example, you need to cut your grass. You can sit there with scissors and spend the next week doing it, and then you'll need to do it again by the time you're finished with one area. Or you can use a lawnmower. Is that cheating? The job was done. You got the same end result. So what difference does it make as long as you're happy with that end result? So to me, no, it is absolutely not cheating. But that's pretty much always been my attitude about art, that there is no cheating in art unless you're stealing from someone else their designs. But good question, because that is definitely something that comes up a lot. Lonnie said, it's sanding your crate table now. Thank you. Still good for this weekend. I am. On Sundays, good for me. Lonnie is making last week's live stream. I showed the crates that I wanted to have made, and she is doing those for me. So my dogs are getting new. Well, it's a table to go over a crate, or like I don't know how to describe it. It's cool. And so Lonnie volunteered for me. So I'm excited. You don't have to sand too good, Lonnie, because I'm going to make it look super old and rough looking. So it does not have to be perfect looking at all. I'm going to be sanding anyway as I add one layer to the next, if that helps you. Let's see. Mara said, what if you did take more time to lay down a layer, get into the tooth of the paper more, would it blend out darker? Not really, not much. It's not going to make that big of a difference, honestly. It's better just to work in layers, because that's what I was trying to do the first time I did this, and my results were not nearly as good. There's no reason to do that. And I mean, for me, one of the things I like so much about this is it speeds things up. I definitely don't want to try methods that make it just as slow as the other way. That's kind of the thing that I'm liking so much with this. But it's going to get darker just by the layers. And you can see all my other colored pencil pieces, how dark I end up getting. So this is very similar to, let's say, when I'm working in with odorless mineral spirits to blend. If I put down a layer, it's never going to be as dark as I want. I've got to do several layers before I get my pigment as saturated as I want, because that white of the paper is going to keep showing through. And it's essentially the same thing here. So there's not really any difference. But what happens with Powder Blender, a certain amount of product does get knocked off. So it'll end up at the bottom of my easel here, or on my floor quite possibly, because I didn't put a towel down. I did not think very far ahead. So you're going to knock some of that off no matter what. And if you get too much pigment on the paper, you're just knocking a lot of that off. That's what that touch-up texture is for. That product, you really want to use that in combination with this to get the best results. When I first was working with these, my first several projects, I was hardly spraying with touch-up texture. Or texture fixative. I was trying to get things dark, like you said, just with the layering, and then I'd add more layers. You knock off too much product. So you're going to get it dark enough just by spray the texture fixative, which I'll be spraying in just a minute, and then go right back over that again with another, just keep layering until you get it to look how you want. So we'll smooth that out just a bit. I like this blender because it has the rounded tip. The one with the square edge, I tend to have too much. It's kind of like using a flat paintbrush. You end up with harsher stop and start points, whereas this is like the filbert where you can soften things a bit better. And I'm okay with some almost brush look in there. I just want to make sure that it's somewhat uniform. Whoops, I wasn't supposed to get in her hair. No, see here, I just went in her hair like crazy. Now I can do two things. One, I can take an eraser. This is actually not the right kind of eraser. Let me see if I've got one over here I can show you. I can erase that before I spray it, and it will lift a lot of that off. But the reality is it doesn't really matter, because when I go over it with her hair color, it'll cover it completely. Like, you're not going to be able to see that. So you can see I can erase it where I've done that. One thing I did try, I thought it would be faster, blending with a paintbrush for Powder Blender. It knocks off too much of the product. So, like, you can get different effects that are cool, but for, like, your normal blending, I didn't like it. I did try that. I tried a bunch of things the first time I tried this product, and I tried a lot of things I didn't end up liking and didn't try again. My favorite, the kit comes with these little teeny blenders. I have some somewhere. They look like little eyeshadow brushes. Maybe I don't have any over here right now. They're tiny. I didn't like those as much. I like the texture of them, but I don't like working on them on a big area because it takes forever because you've got this teeny, teeny, tiny blender. I definitely like the soft tools a lot for getting good blending because you can get bigger sizes with those. DJ Chan, actually, wait, hold on. I think I skipped something. Yep, I skipped a whole bunch of questions. Hold on, let me scroll back up. What size is my Fisher paper? This is, Peggy, is a 16 by 20. Gail said, could you show us how you are applying the powder to your brush? All I'm doing is taking the lid, and this is the back end of it where I've tapped some of the excess off. I just load it and then tap off the excess, and that's it. It's, I mean, it's so simple. It's not even something, it's really simple, basically. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, this can, you want to make sure you shake it for like 2-3 minutes, like really shake it. I forget how long it says on here. It says shake well for 30 seconds. I usually shake longer than that. If you don't shake it well enough, one, you're going to be more likely to have spitting like the spray. And you will have that anyway. That's just the nature of the product. It doesn't hurt anything. Any of those big droplets that will come out will get blended on my next layer. So it doesn't really matter. But the other thing is it's very similar. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, I've already shaken this one up too much. You can't see. But this is basically kind of like what's in here. And you'll end up with this residue at the bottom. I don't think it's going to pick up on camera. But you end up with this residue. It gives you an idea of how long you need to shake this. It's how long you need to shake the can. Because you want to get that all mixed inside so that it works as well as it possibly can. So let me spray this, and then I'll come back and answer some questions while we wait for this to dry. And if your can, actually I think this is a new can I haven't used before. If your can starts to clog, just pull this cap off. It just pulls right off, and soak it in hot water and then dry it. But that'll fix it. So, okay, let me grab this because I don't like to breathe a bunch of stuff in. I don't care if it's non-toxic. I don't like to inhale stuff. Oops, see how I'm getting spitting here? I probably didn't shake it well enough. But it's not going to matter when I go, I spit pretty good. When I go over, oh geez, that's really spitting. Yeah, I'm going to have to pick at the cap. This one must not have been the new one. I have a few of them over here because I got paranoid, so I think I need a million. But see how it's sprayed up here? It's dotted. It's got these big globs. It is not going to matter. Once I put my next layer over it, it's not going to hurt anything. Let me see, is that still, here, we'll just do a smaller amount. There we go. You don't need a ton either. Like just a quick spray is all you need. Now I'm going to let that dry for a minute. I'll answer some questions, and then we'll go back onto the next layer. Okay, so Rebecca said, do I have any advice for people stuck in a perfectionism mindset but lacking skills? I'm trying to get friends to stick with art because they can grow, but they doubt themselves. You know, I think people's attitude going into art has so much to do with how much they progress. Like, for example, my friend who designed this dress, he just started sewing. He's doing an amazing job. Well, he's now taking an art class and learning to draw so that he can draw the fashion designs and all of that for his own work. What he started out a week ago versus today, all because of his attitude. He was, if you're watching Jimmy, I'm sorry, he was terrible, and he is as bad as anyone would be to start with, what anyone would expect someone who's never drawn before. In 1 week, because he draws non-stop, he's improved so much. The amount of time you put into drawing, combined with right attitude, those two things will make all the difference in the world. Like, he's one I can tell is going to be amazing just because of his attitude and how quickly, I mean, he draws constant, so the practice is going to do it too. But I mean, he's learning things so quickly because of the right attitude. And I think when you're being a perfectionist, it's easy to get into this mindset of, I can't do something, so I'm not going to do it. It's funny because I just was writing about this in my email newsletter that went out today. There was a time where I said, I can't draw people. I can't, and yeah, I projected this one, but I can freehand them just fine too. It just takes me a lot longer. But I had this attitude, I can't draw people, I'm not going to bother. I'm good at drawing dolphins. It's all I'm really good at, so that's all I'm going to do. Dolphins, whales, fish. That was limiting me. It really limited, like, I wanted to draw mermaids. Couldn't, because I didn't know how to draw people, so they didn't look very good. And I finally hit a point where it was like, you know what, I am done with that. There's no reason. If I can draw a dog realistically, or I can draw a dolphin realistically, why can't I draw a person? I was in my head, slowing myself down, so I had to take the time. It took me 16 hours to draw my first, and get it absolutely perfect. I drew James Marsters. Ended up being an oil painting. But I spent 16 hours getting every little thing perfect. Using everything that I learned from drawing dolphins, I applied it over here. in my own head, was what was holding me back. Not my skill. I had the skill for, I don't know how long I would have been, had that skill. I just hadn't applied it. I hadn't tried, because in my head I said, no, I've done people before and I was terrible at it. So that is definitely, I think you have to kind of get out of your own way sometimes. You have to practice a lot, like what I was saying, what Jimmy is doing. Draw all the time, as much as you get a chance to draw. And honestly, trace things. If you're really having a hard time getting things to be perfectly drawn, if drawing is your problem anyway, trace something a few times, then freehand it. Trace something a few times, then freehand it. What you're trying to do is force your brain to see things accurately, because our brain has a tendency to look at an eye and go, I know what an eye looks like. I don't need to look at the reference photo. I got this. You want to force your brain to start noticing things it didn't notice before. People seem to think that there's some weird, like, magical hand-eye coordination. It's not a contact sport, or, any kind of sport. You're not trying to hit a baseball or a softball or whatever, which I was always terrible at, by the way. But you're not trying to do that. This is trying to show your brain, or open your mind up into seeing what's actually there versus what it thinks is there. So that's where tracing comes in handy, and you can improve so much. And a lot of it is just, when you paint something or draw something, let's say your drawings are fine, but your paintings don't have the contrast. There's something missing that you're not sure what it is. Find an artist who is creating artwork that looks very much like what you want your work to look like, and study their finished painting. And so you don't have to find someone who's teaching tutorials even. Just find that finished painting and compare it to yours. What is different about their artwork from yours? Why is theirs better? What exactly is it? If you can pinpoint that thing and start working towards improving that, that's really going to make a difference. But I think we have to get out of our own way and out of our own heads sometimes, where we're just, like me. I can't draw people, so I'm just not going to. Turns out I could, and I did it really, really well. He's still one of my favorite portraits, and it was like my first time of like, okay, I've got this. I'm going to do it seriously. He's still on my website. If you go look up an old James Marsters oil painting on my website, that's the first time that I was taking seriously, like, okay, I'm going to do this. So getting out of your own way is just a big thing, and draw more, and accept the fact that your first few times, they're going to look bad, or whatever it is you're doing. When you're starting out, yeah, things are going to look bad. That's how it works. That's it. I mean, even now, I've been playing violin since I was 9 years old. So it's been a long time. If I'm going to learn a new song, I have to accept the fact that it is going to sound terrible as I'm learning that, and especially if it's something very fast. My fingers are not used to that, the muscle memory for that specific song. I know it's going to sound bad. I accept that, and I'm going to keep practicing until it doesn't. And it's the same thing with art. Just keep practicing until it looks good, and I hope some of those tips help you out. But another thing, too, keep in mind that art is not something either you've got it or you don't, and that is a very, very, very big misconception. Yes, some people are probably going to be better than others no matter what, but that doesn't mean that you can't be good. Like, everybody starts out not being amazing. When I was a kid drawing, I drew all the time. My horses, for example, looked like a hot dog on toothpicks, and I was 9 at the time. I mean, old enough, they probably shouldn't have looked like that. It's not something you're necessarily born with. It's that interest. Like, if you have the interest to keep drawing, keep practicing, that's what's going to make you good. So don't let, that self-doubt hold you back. Okay, let's see. DJ Chan, what price is considered reasonable for colored pencils? I'm a beginner, and I don't know if polychromos are overpriced here. For here in the U.S., polychromos are about, I want to say I paid $193.50, something like that, for my set, and I've seen them cheaper, but that's what I spent for my full set of 120. Rohan said, or asked, what pencils and mediums are you using now? Because I wasn't there at the start. They are the polychromos, and I'm using Powder Blender. The links for what I'm using are in the video description. Okay. Let's see. I'm touching this because sometimes the dots, you can even see it's blending just from my finger touching it. Yeah, good enough. We're going on to the next layer. These first layers, I'm not going to hurt anything. It's pretty hard to mess something up at this stage. Okay, so this side I wanted to be a little bit cool. Actually, I kind of like this color, though. I may just keep it warm for the entire background. Decisions. I don't know. I can change my mind later. That's the other thing I love about this. I can change my mind every 5 minutes. You can go back over something. You don't really hit a point where you can't add more layers. If I'm working with odorless mineral spirits on Stonehenge or Fabriano or whatever, you're going to hit a point where you really can't get more layers, and you don't have that happen with this because this spray is continuously adding more texture, plus the sanded paper is already very textured, so you actually can... Okay, where is my other... I had a longer one I pulled out. That is not the color I thought I pulled out. 1 second. There it is. I knew I had a new one. So this is dark sepia I'm going to use. Let me pull the label off. Vladimir, oh, I just scrolled past this question. Go back. Oh my gosh, I missed a bunch of questions. Okay, let's get caught up real quick. See if I can go through these quickly. If I can, there we go. Scroll back. Ah, there we go. Nope, scroll too far again. Oh, I wish YouTube's chat was not doing this. Okay, Rachel said, which would you recommend for beginners, OMS or powder blender? Whichever you're more interested in, honestly. It's almost like two different mediums because you're going to have to, like, if you get really good with odorless mineral spirits, I went into it because I've been using odorless mineral spirits forever, or what seems like forever. I went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to be just as good with my first colored pencil with powder blender as I am with odorless mineral spirits. No, there's a learning curve there. It took a few pieces before I felt like I understood how everything worked, and you just have to, you're relearning different techniques. So it really doesn't, I don't think it matters which one you start with. I say figure out which is more appealing to you, which looks more fun to you. Because either way, you're going to have to learn from scratch. Like if you start with OMS, you're going to have to learn over again to do powder blender. Or not over again, but you're going to learn new techniques. I'm holding the pencil different. I do everything differently with odorless mineral or powder blender for my base layers especially. And the same way, if you started with powder blender, it's going to be very different when you go to use odorless mineral spirits. So just whichever you're more interested in. I don't think you have to start with one or the other. Andy said, do you have any experience in using gouache? Not much. Not a whole lot. I mean, it's basically opaque watercolor, and watercolor was not really ever my thing until I started loving my watercolor pencils. I will say that the Caran d'Ache watercolor pencils feel very much like gouache, so I almost feel like I do just from that, even though they say that they're not, but that's what they feel like. Vladimir said, on average, would you say you draw animals more than people? Yes, definitely. Let's see. Lonnie said, I am working on a dog in pastel matte. Will Fixative work on pastel matte? So, with pastel matte, do you mean, is that the medium? Pastel matte's a paper, isn't it? Powder blender in general, I'm not sure. I think one of my friends said she did it and liked it, but I haven't seen what she did with it, so I'm not sure how good it looked. I would ask Aliona. You can email her and contact her. She might be watching now. Aliona, if you're watching, can you answer that question, how pastel matte works with this? Fabson said, do all fixatives work or only the product you're using? Only the product I'm using, because the other ones aren't made for colored pencil, so you can run into archival issues. And all of the other texture sprays that are supposed to be workable fixatives, they're not adding texture, and that's a big difference all on its own. But none of them work quite the same. Like it's a pretty noticeable difference. These products were all made and designed to work together. Jacqueline said, when do you use the touch-up liquid? I use it in two cases. One, when I mix with my touch-up texture titanium white mixture, when I'm painting on my white, or I use it when, like, let's say I was working on the eyes and I started burnishing and I damaged the tooth of the paper and I just need a little bit more texture there. I just take that with a little nail polish little guy, because it looks like it is a nail polish file. I mean, that's basically what it is. Take that little guy and I can just paint texture back into that area and go back over it. And so that would be the other time I would use it. Tracy said, you said the powder blender could only be used on sanded paper. Have you tried it on pastel matte? We're back to that same, like, I think, yeah, I answered that one. Okay, someone else said, never mind you, it's just answered. Ursi said, your channel is extremely good and positive. Thank you. DJ Chan said, have you ever tried or reviewed the Derwent Artist Studio colored pencils? I actually got a chance to try. They were improving them or changing the formula, and I got to test them out. And those ones, I actually kind of liked them. They weren't bad, but I haven't heard anything else about them, so I don't know if anything changed or if the other ones are the same formula. I didn't dislike them, but I mean, I don't know. I don't have a full set of them, so I've not tried a full project with what's on the market, so I'm not really sure. I don't have much of an opinion one way or another, basically. Okay, Rebecca said, okay, Avenger, thank you for your advice. I don't know where my art would be if I didn't watch your videos. Oh, that's so cool to hear. Myra said, well, and then it just scrolled. Come back. Go back. Where did that go? Okay, here we go. Myra said, if some colored pencils aren't archival, but you see an art, or but you use an archival fixative, will that solve the problem with the pencils? It helps, but it doesn't solve the problem. I mean, it's only going to help so much. I still wouldn't use it. I mean, okay, let's use the Inktense for an example. I love my Inktense. They're not, some of them are light fast, but once you add water, they're same with a lot of watercolor pencils. The light fast ratings, we don't really know what those are going to be once water's added. So with those, I don't sell my Inktense work, but I sell prints of them. If I am going to sell, or let's say I'm going to give it away, I'm going to make sure that that person knows, put it behind UV glass. I'm going to put a spray, a UV protecting spray on top, and then I'm going to put it behind, or tell the person I gave it to put it behind UV glass so that it'll last as long as possible. But it's not an instant fix, but it does help. If that, I don't know how well that answers your question. Caitlin said, hey Lisa, my Inktense tin will be here tomorrow. Yay! Along with paper you recommended with a long name, Fabriano Artisan. Extra right, hot press, 140. Yes, that's a very long name. Can I also use the Bristol along with, can I use these on Bristol along with luminance? If you're going to use the Inktense, do the Inktense first. Inktense are a water-based product. You don't want to mix a water and an oil. Well, okay, wait, I take that back. You can mix water and oil, but you have to put oil on top of the water. So Inktense first, and then your luminance on top of that is fine. But as far as, and the Bristol board, I think that those ones are super smooth, so you're gonna have to play with the results that you're gonna get. It's not gonna be the same as the Fabriano, but you don't want to put your luminance down and then try to put the Inktense on top, because that would be putting a water base on top of oil, which you don't want to do. So again, you can do oil over water, but not the other way around. Do I have any tips on drawing hair? Yes, look at, and you'll be seeing that in this one. This one I think I'm going to try to finish just the hair. So like it'll be a two-parter for Patreon. You'll get just the background and the hair for part one. So we'll be focusing a lot on that. But I've got a lot of videos talking about how to draw hair. Watch the clumps and clusters. Don't try to draw every single strand of hair unless you're trying to make them look like a zombie. So like with hers, I might actually put a few extra strands in here on the side that's going to have the green, because it should look a little bit rougher if I want to go with the real Beetlejuice theme. But normally you want to look at where are the highlights, where are the shadows. Like when you look at somebody's hair, you're not looking at the person and seeing every individual hair. You're seeing the highlights, where the light is hitting here and then a shadow here and then the highlight. Don't sit and try to draw one long strand all the way down. Light and dark, look at those values, look where those lights and darks are. And I've got a lot of videos. Any of my portraits really are going to talk about that, except for one guy who was bald. I don't talk about hair a lot in his portrait. But for the most part, any of the portraits, if you look up Lachri and portrait on YouTube, you're going to see a lot. Oh my gosh. Seriously, dog? Not my dog, by the way. But anyway, look at the clumps and clusters. Don't try to draw them as individual strands. If you try to draw them as individual strands, oh, see, here's an area that was not supposed to be filled in. That is going to go straight. You're going to make things look like zombie hair. Like they haven't been washed in a really long time. Stringy, it doesn't look soft. Ercy said, I think I'm saying it. You told me how to say it last week, and I don't know if I'm doing it right. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I think that is the best thing to say. Make cool art, just do it. To say just make cool art is excellent and positive. Yeah, I mean, with art, people get worked up over what rules. If it looks good, who cares? And one of the things that always kind of made me laugh, like people when they say, okay, you used a projector. Well, are you telling the buyer they need to know that because you're cheating? It's not cheating. The end result is the exact same. If I freehand it, you cannot tell the difference, other than I'm going to have to charge you a few $100s more because I spent 2 days making that drawing perfect. I've never had a buyer care. Never. I don't know. It's the artists who get themselves worked up over that idea, which is just funny. I mean, if you don't like it, fine, don't do it. But don't go on your mission of convincing every other artist that they're wrong, because you just make yourself look kind of silly. I mean, I guess except to your own little elitist club who also agrees with you, but most artists agree. Use whatever tools you have available to you. I mean, if it's good enough for the old masters, it is certainly good enough for me. I liked what an artist said too. Noah, Noah, I forget his last name. He's a airbrush artist. But somebody asked him that about using projectors. And he said, you know, if somebody's going to pay me $5,000 to paint their kid, better look like their kid. And he's like, you better be, you know, I'm definitely using a projector in that case. Now, he can freehand on his own. It would look the same. It's just going to take him a lot longer. But that made me laugh. And that's the thing with using projectors, using those tools. If you can't draw, it doesn't matter what tools you use. It's obvious in the finish. Once you start shading, you have to be able to freehand in order to make that look super realistic. What those who are learning are going to gain from tracing is it's going to help you to learn faster, to notice those details like I was saying before. So, but for those who can already draw, it's just saving us time. Let's see. Mara said, so if you do 20 layers in the background and only 10 on the main subject, just an example, you won't end up with a ridge around the subject. No, you can't tell at all. Like, I've never been able to tell a difference from one section to the other. And there have been times that I did just that. That's a good question. Oh, well, there we go. Scroll too far. Again. There we go. Valerie said, I found out that the lab Derwent and Karen Dosh used to test Lightfast is here in Arizona. I will no be testing everything I have. Oh, now? Now. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, sorry, I'm reading that wrong. Mitchell says, currently, what animal do you most enjoy drawing? Gosh, I don't know. Birds, whales, and birds and sea life, I would say, are my favorite. Birds and dolphins, mostly. But that's not always the case. It depends on what day you ask me. Whatever I'm currently drawing is almost always going to be my favorite. Like, I get obsessed about that one thing until I move on to something else. Like, I mean, I go through phases where all I want to draw are tigers or leopards or horses. Like, lots of phases. I haven't drawn a horse in a while. I need to do that. Do I still use the Lyra Rembrandt? Are they suitable for beginners? They're okay. I have them. I don't hate them. They're not my favorites. They're not my least favorite. They're decent, but they're not ones that, like, I don't even have them pulled out. I think they actually work okay with Powder Blender. I don't even have them pulled out for this project. I don't normally. They're still in a tin. I never put them in the same boxes of the pencils that I use all the time. They're definitely decent. They're okay for. I don't see any reason for a beginner not to use them. See how messy I can be holding the pencil to the side? Like, I'm getting, like, that line right there just totally went where her hair is going to go. Even if I don't erase it, it doesn't matter, because when I draw the hair on top, you're not even going to be able to tell anything was underneath it. Nick Edgar said, how many layers do you put down before you lose the gritty abrasiveness of the sanded paper? And is that when you are comfortable using the waxier luminance and Pablo's pencils? I've never really lost that feel, because that's what the texture fixative, it's going to keep adding more. So I never feel like, I can't tell where it's the texture from that versus the texture from the sanded paper. I take that back. I want to say there were a couple times where I did a portrait where there were flowers in the girl's hair. I think I did enough layers. I started to lose it there, but then I just sprayed that and it came back and I was good to add more layers. So I'm not sure as far as how many. I've never hit a point where I couldn't do more layers. Like, that's not the thing that makes me switch from one to the other. I switch to the wax ones when I want something more opaque that's not going to blend, that's not going to move. So those are just my final layers when I know I'm at the end, not due to a lack of tooth to the paper, just because I know I'm getting to the end. Do I really spray after every single layer? I do. So you never mix 2 layers before spraying? Okay, better question. Sort of. Yeah, if I want to mix 2 layers, I do. Right now, I'm just kind of I want to get this dark right now. So actually, I will probably go ahead and start putting a lighter gray and mix that in with this side right now. We may as well. So you can see what I mean by that. Since we got that in there, let's go ahead and grab this one, because I do want this side to be lighter. So you can see those are going to mix together some. But when I mix them, it's just going to make one medium color. You're not really going to see the light and the dark here, other than where it fades into this section that stays dark. So yes, you can add a couple of layers like I'm doing here when you want more colors or when you want the color to shift. So like if I wanted to make this a purplish gray color, I could pull the purple in now. I could start doing that at this point. You don't, so yeah, you don't have to spray between every layer if that layer means you're just changing color. But in between blending, so like I'll blend out, that's how I should word that. In between each time that I blend, I spray. Kim said, you had mentioned earlier that you would like to draw mermaids, but didn't because you didn't think you could draw people. Would you draw a mermaid now that you can draw people? Actually, I want to talk to my friend and see if he can convince her to pose as a mermaid, or if they next time they do Photoshops, because I'm sure I'll be surprised if they don't use her again. But he's used a few models, or he's got another model for another one that was really pretty too. But her with her eyes being so big, I think she would make such a perfect mermaid. So I need to see if I can get her to pose as one for me. Or, I mean, I can use stock reference photos. I just have to get the right photo to use. Because I do want to draw a mermaid. I just haven't gotten around to it. I need to find the right photo. So now, see how this is starting to fall in her face? You might think, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Now you're going to have black when you go to paint her face because she has very, very pale skin. It's not going to blend into, like, it's not going to be a problem at all. It's not something you need to worry about. Ursis. Am I saying that right? Ursis. Ursis. Hopefully I got that right. Okay. You'll have to probably remind me every live stream because I'm so bad about names. Scroll too far. There we go. Fab Some Draws says, I have a struggle coloring skin, especially in the face. How do we overcome this? Practice. Practice and more layers. And I would say too, have you done portraits in black and white? Because usually it's not the color, it's your values. Learn to do some black and white. Learn how to, just blend softly where things need to be soft or get detail where things need detail. But learn your values. Learn your lights and your darks first. I usually, when a student wanted to learn to draw portraits, I didn't start them with color. I started them with black and white, even if they were going to do oil painting. I'm going to do it as a black and white oil painting. Because when you're first learning portraits, trying to throw color in there on top of learning your values, on top of understanding detail of faces and anatomy, it's pretty difficult. So try doing some stuff in black and white first and really get a good understanding of making that look realistic. And the goal isn't, you don't want it to look like just a pencil sketch. You want it to look like a black and white painting or a black and white photograph. Learn your values. That, before you jump into color, can make things much, much easier. And then when you do start with color, you're going to have such a better understanding and it's going to look so much more realistic. And I mean, even if, like, let's say I'm drawing a portrait and I use too much purple, as long as my values are right, it's not that big of a deal. You get your darks dark enough and your lights light enough. That's what matters. And so if you can start by doing black and white portraits, that is going to make it so much easier to manage the color when you get to that stage. But I think we have a tendency to put too much pressure on the color. Color matters. I mean, every aspect of a painting matters. But color is not as big of a deal as we want to make it out to be at all. Your values are what's such a big deal. Get those values there. Get your darks dark enough, your lights light enough. If you're trying to make something look realistic, that's how that's going to happen, not by knowing the exact right color. You can have the perfect color and still have the face look like a flat cartoon if you didn't get your values right. Okay, yeah, Gail Perkins said that Michelangelo used stencils on the Sistine Chapel. Yeah, I mean, they used so many tools back then. If you honestly think that the old masters would not have used projectors, they used similar tools. They would have loved the tools we have available to us now. I am not going to limit myself. I'm going to use every tool available to me to make the best possible artwork. I don't understand limiting oneself. Let's see, what did I use to correct the area you colored black by accident? This one is actually an ink eraser, although with this product, I kind of prefer just a regular, this is a Staedtler Mars plastic. It's just a cheapy, like, pencil type eraser. This one is actually the Faber-Castell ink eraser. Just because it was on my easel and in arm's reach, so that's why I used that one, not because it was necessarily the best one for this thing. Now, when I'm working with colored pencil, I do like the Faber-Castell ink eraser when I'm using like odorless mineral spirits. That's my go-to eraser. But for powder blender, I don't need that. I can use any eraser. And I usually like the softer ones better myself in that case. Okay, so let's get rid of some of these. Just some of the heavier brush strokes. Actually, I need to wipe some of the powder. I've got so much product on this that I'm leaving big chunks. There we go. I spread that out a bit better. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and spray this. Blow off some of the excess there. And then we'll answer some more questions. Kind of hesitant to spray this one because I clearly need to soak this before working on it, because I have a quad can. Oh, much lighter layer. I just didn't push as hard and that came out much better that time. Like I said, if you do have those clumps like I had the first time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't ruin anything. You'll fix it on your next layer. It'll blend out completely. Okay. And this isn't a super strong smell. It's not like, I was afraid to use it indoors initially because I thought it was going to be like spray paint. It's not. It's not. It just has like a little bit of a, it's kind of like hairspray, a little bit of an, kind of an alcohol type smell. I don't know how to describe it, but it's light and it dissipates really quickly. So your whole room isn't going to stink. Like, you can use it indoors safely. I just wouldn't use it around birds, like I explained earlier. What did I use to, okay, I answered that one. DJ Chan said, how do you ensure you don't smudge out the detail while blending? I'm going to smudge some of it out. I mean, you can be more careful than what I'm using, or I'm doing. I'm being pretty messy here because I know it doesn't matter, and I'll just freehand stuff back in later on. This is where I talk about, like, projecting something isn't a, like, instant win button, because if you can't draw, I've got to be able to freehand still, because I've got to freehand back everything that I lost there. But you can be more careful than what I'm doing and not blend out on accident. I'm being pretty sloppy, just because I know it's no big deal for me to freehand it back. But that's a good question. Let's see. Dolphin Plus said, yes, more horse paintings. Yeah, I should do horse painting with powder blender. I've never done that. That's going to be coming soon. Ernesto said, who is the subject in the portrait? Her name is in the video description. I forget it. I don't remember what her name was. I want to say it started with a K, I think? K. I don't remember, because I'm bad with names. But I did write it in the description. She actually, I heard today she's got a, I don't personally know her. My friend Jimmy knows her. She's got a magazine being published, or she's being published in the Dallas Voyage. I was actually recently published in that magazine. But she's got an article coming out, and she's going to be wearing this dress for some of the photos in there. So that'll be pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Mitchell. DJ Chan said, would you consider cartoon drawing, animation drawing much easier? Easier, yes. Here's a tip for you. If you want things to look realistic, stop drawing cartoons. A lot of people have a tendency just to be stuck on cartoons. They'll get in this, like, that's what I'm good at. Kind of like what I was saying with portraits earlier. This is what I'm good at. I'm not good at realistic stuff, even though I kind of want to do that. I'm not going to, because I'm not good at it. I'm going to do cartoons until I perfect that, and then I'll be able to somehow able to do realistic. If you want things to be realistic, stop drawing cartoons. Quick tip there. I mean, draw cartoons if they're fun for you, but not because they're not going to get you to this. They're not going to get it so that you can draw realistic. If you only draw cartoons, that's all you're going to be able to do, unless you start practicing realism too. Now, if you're having fun drawing cartoons, nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, a lot of people think that they'll do cartoons because it's easier, and that eventually they'll move, like, that's how they're going to move on to realism. But until you start drawing realism, it's not the same at all. You're not learning to draw things accurately because, like I said, not a hand-eye. If it was a hand-eye coordination thing, drawing cartoons would teach you the hand-eye coordination you needed to draw realistically. That would get you there. It doesn't, because it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with teaching your brain to see things accurately. When you draw cartoons, you're not drawing things, cartoons aren't accurate to realism. I mean, the way that you draw an eye in a cartoon is very different than what an eye actually looks like. So if you want to get to that point where you're drawing things realistically, you've got to teach your brain to see things realistically, and in that case, spend more time drawing realistic things. But I mean, anytime you get into art, I do say, do what you have fun with. If you only have interest in cartoons, there's nothing wrong with that. These tips are for somebody who wants to draw more realistic, in addition to that. Let's see. Vladimir said, Ursus is going to keep writing that for me. Thank you. I hope I'm saying it right now. Vladimir said, how do you create extremely fine highlights like hair in graphite? So far, I'm clumsily using an eraser and it's not working out great. Ideally, maintain the white of the paper as much as possible. Draw around them. So you're doing the reverse. You're shading in the dark but leaving the white of the paper light, because yeah, you can erase some. You're going to pull out highlights with the eraser, especially like the Tumble Mono eraser is one of my favorites for that. You can use an electric eraser. Those are usually a little bit bulkier, but you can do that to pull it out. But ideally, for the really like bright highlights, leave the white of the paper and work in between those with the dark strands, is how you're going to keep those light enough. I've tried for years to just use the eraser to pull stuff out. It's just not going to get the same as leaving the white of the paper. Tracy said, I didn't see the product name for the texture fixative in the notes. What brand is it? All of this is by brushandpencil.com. So it's this one here. It's all, if you go to brushandpencil.com, they have all the products are listed there. But sorry if I didn't list that. That one is the texture fixative. Robin said, would it be better to lay the board flat so that the pencil would fall into the textured paper instead of falling off of it? It'd be loose. It'd be too loose for me. I actually want it to fall off, so flat's not an option for me anyway because of my back and my neck. But I don't want it to have loose powder all over, because while this does seal it down to an extent, it's only to an extent. I mean, see? It still comes off. It's not completely sealing it like putting a varnish over it or something like that. So I don't want a bunch of loose powder on that myself, so I'm actually glad to have it fall off. Mini Sea Star said, how are you enjoying the watercolor pencils? I love them so much. I'm actually, Patreon, if you're a member over there, we're going to be doing, not this week, I think next week or the week after, I'm going to do a watercolor pencil Patreon only live stream. I'm not sure what our project will be, but it's going to be one of the start to finish ones. I didn't do one yet this month, so we are going to be doing that soon. And then I'm also going to be doing for everyone on YouTube, I'll have a Derwent versus Caran d'Ache watercolor project where I do the same project in both, so we can really see the difference between those pencils. So I'm excited to do that too. That's coming up soon, but I absolutely love them. They are like at the top of my favorites list right now for art mediums, which is still hilarious because I fought it for so long. Let's see. Fabsim Draws said, any advice for students who are going to university to do fine arts? You're going to have teachers that teach you things that maybe you don't like. Like maybe they'll tell you can never use a projector. You can never use an eraser. Different teachers are going to have different ways to teach things. Learn every single thing you can from that teacher. Do it their way for the class. Don't argue with them. It's not going to change their mind. Do what they are teaching you, and then on your own at home, you can do artwork how you want. If you don't necessarily like their techniques, but learn everything you can from every single teacher, because that teacher, like let's say you hate 90% of what they teach you, but 10% you're like, oh, that was actually a cool tip. You can take that 10% and use that in your future work. You're going to take what you learn from multiple teachers and apply it to how you work, to your own kind of techniques. So I know a lot of people go into universities, they go into classrooms, and they don't like how a teacher teaches, but you've got them for a semester, so you're just going to have to deal with it. Don't fight it. Don't argue if they don't want you using erasers, if they don't want you using certain tools or use what they want you to. Do those projects and learn what you can from them, because even if it's just like one little tip, that one tip may be priceless and worth the whole semester of things you didn't like. Hopefully you'll have good teachers and you like everything they say, but I mean, realistically, you're going to have things from different teachers that you just don't like, don't agree with, don't like how they teach, whatever. Learn everything you can from every single one, and then pick and choose what you like from each teacher to morph into how you work for your own art. But don't get frustrated if you get a teacher who is teaching you things and you're like, I just don't agree with that technique or that method, or I don't like it. Learn it anyway, because the more you know how to do, the better you are, better off you'll be in the long run. Cam Wildman said, if removing color with my sponge, do I have too little blender or too much? From Kathy. I don't know that it's necessarily one rule or another. It's going to. I mean, you're going to be removing color. That's the nature of this. You're going to knock product off the paper. That's just how it works. When it isn't blending real well and the blender isn't sliding, it's not gliding easily, that to me is when I need to reload my get a bit more powder blender on there. But a little bit of powder blender goes a very long way. So there's no like definite rule of it means this or it means that. It's going to knock some product off. That's just how it works. Let's see. Let's and scroll too far, of course, because so frustrated when it does that. Okay, here we go. Will said, I found some old canvas boards gifted to me about 10 years ago, cheap, and I thought it would be good for practice. I have gesso, but I didn't know what sandpaper to use. Any advice? You know, canvas boards, I don't gesso. Those, for some reason, it's like they're hard. I've never had good luck myself. I mean, you may as well try it, but I will say I've never had good luck sanding and gessoing canvas boards. But you can give it a try. If it's too rough, I mean, it's not going to make it worse, I'm sure. But anyway, I usually will use like a 4, no, not even 4. I think mine are usually anywhere between a 6,000. I've used up to a 12, or not 6,000, 600. I've used up to a 1200 grit. That was almost too smooth, and then the paint, like my canvas was too smooth. Great for airbrushing, but the paint was just like slipping around because the 1200 grit was way too smooth. I want to say it was about 600 is what I usually use, right around there. Maybe to 800. It's in that drawer and I can't see it right now. I haven't sanded anything to bits, so I don't remember. Let's see. Melody, you're looking at this because the dress here is up and you can't see that yet. The dress is poofy. It's up over her arm. That's why the arm looks so thin right there. Plus the angle of the camera accentuates that even more. McKenna Yell. Yeah, that's her name. I knew there was a K in there somewhere. Tomorrow said, when I get into, that is the name of the model, by the way, when I get into the zone, drawing or painting, I have a hard time explaining what I'm doing. Is this the reason behind voiceovers? You seem to talk pretty well now. When I paint, I don't want to talk. I don't want to teach while I'm painting. Like when I'm on my own, like during the night and painting that whole process, I want to listen to my audiobooks. I want to be in another world, not talking the whole time. And I mean, when I do the videos, I'm going to speed them up anyway. So that is a huge portion because so much of what I do is repetitive. I don't need everything like on Patreon. I'm not going to have an 8-hour video real time because how much of this is just the same? Each layer, I'm doing the same techniques. You don't need to see that in real time. And so I don't need to do a voiceover in real time for that. I'm going to speed up sections that are just repetitive. And like I said, I like to listen to my audiobooks or listen to movies playing in the background or something like that. I don't want to, it would feel too, I mean, I already do a lot of work. If I had to work even with that, like painting for me, I enjoy the process of listening to a book while working. Like it's a fun thing to me. And if I were teaching, as much as I like teaching, it's too much work from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed, and I don't get to listen to my books then. Mara said, if you totally changed your mind and wanted to have the sun highlighting behind your shoulder, our left, did you change that background enough for sunny yellow? Absolutely. I would put white first, lighten it up, go back over it. Yeah, I definitely could. That's the thing. I mean, you can make, part of me wants to do it, but I don't want to, because the way I'm going to layer this, I don't want it to show through. But yeah, you could. Okay. Nalira said, hi, do you have any advice for when it comes to drawing, painting from memory, or a fantasy sci-fi piece? One of the teachers that I had said that's a big no, and I'm confused. I don't recommend working from memory. I mean, obviously, like if you're drawing a dragon, you're not going to get a photo of a dragon, but You can get a photo of different reptiles and get their skin texture. You can get a photo of how the light is hitting those reptiles. You can get photos of things to use as a guideline. I mean, if I paint something surreal, I'm looking over here. I've got a painting that you can't see. It's got the earth, a tree kind of growing on it. His roots are wrapped around it. He's got a butterfly on him. He's got light bulbs hanging off. Jupiter's in the background. The moon. I think there was another plant. Maybe there's another plant on that one. But I mean, and then I've got water and grass, and that's a lot of random things put together. Obviously, I didn't have a reference photo of that. So I got reference photos of the earth. I got a reference photo of a tree. I got a reference photo of Jupiter. I got a reference photo of grass. I got different reference photos, and I combined them into one thing. I still use reference photos. There's not a single photo in the world that looks like what my painting is. But, well, other than photos of the painting. But, I mean, you get photos. I got photos of clouds. I got photos of things, and then I combined them into one thing. So going from your mind, it's when you get to where you've drawn something a million times, like if I've drawn I'm trying to think of what something, for example, for an orca. I've drawn so many of them. I can freehand that way. I can work from my mind and get something pretty. It won't be as accurate as if I have a reference photo, but it'll be close because I painted hundreds and hundreds of them. I don't need a perfect photo for that. But if I'm painting, let's say a tiger, I need a reference photo. As many as I painted, I still need a reference photo. It's not going to look realistic if I don't have that photo. If I've drawn hundreds of those, then I can get away with not using it as often. But if you want things to look realistic, even if it's sci-fi, get photos of stuff to use as examples. Working from your mind, things tend to come out real flat. They just don't usually look as good. Usually, because there are exceptions. Jasmine said, what daily practice drawings do you recommend? Anything that interests you. So I'm not one who says that this is the thing that you have to draw, this is the thing that you have to practice, this is the whatever. Draw what interests you, because you're good. I find that students learn so much faster and improve so much faster if it is something that interests them. Like I was talking about Jimmy, the guy who designed this dress. One of the reasons I think he's improving so much is that he keeps drawing things that interest him. He's interested in fashion. He's interested in getting the human figure so that he can draw clothes on them. That, I think, is a huge thing. I think if you asked him to draw cars, I don't think he'd be improving as fast, because I don't think that's something that interests him terribly. Not like fashion does. So drawing something that is interesting to you is more beneficial than drawing something that somebody else assigned to you. Now, let's say it's a case where you can't think of anything to draw. Okay, then having somebody tell you what to draw can be pretty useful. But if it's just because you think that one thing is going to be better than another, not really. Variety, of course, is good, but draw what you're interested in, and that is going to help you to improve faster than if you're drawing something that you have zero interest in at all. I mean, like when I was teaching, a lot of people, I would start them off with flowers. Well, most teenage boys weren't interested in drawing flowers. So, whereas most women were fine with that, and flowers are a good way to start because they're more forgiving. I mean, if you've got a nose off on a portrait, it's pretty obvious. If you have a flower petal off on a rose, not a big deal. But for a lot of the teenage boys, they just weren't interested in that. So I'd let them draw things that they were interested in. Bring something from home that you're interested in, we'll work on that. But I find that people learn much faster if it's something that you're really like passionate about versus something that you're just like, meh, I was told I have to do this. Let's see. How long does the color pencil last? Does it differ with brands other than Prisma that break? Softer pencils, like the Derwent drawing, I go through faster because they're soft. You'll burn through them a little bit quicker. Like they lay down really fast though. Right now with this, I'm burning through them quickly because I'm filling so much area so fast. It just depends on what you're doing and how you're applying the pencil. There's not like it lasts this many square inches that I can give you. Now on this, I'm holding the pencil to the side so I get more surface area covering fast, or, so I can lay down more faster. Let's see. I've heard it say that people say to use 1 to 3 coats of gesso to prep your canvas. What is your opinion? I don't prep my own. The only time I have to gesso a canvas is if I'm using a canvas that has too much tooth. I buy canvases, or mine, well, I don't buy them now. Frederick sends them to me. But when I did buy them, I bought Frederick's. They're all pre-gessoed. So I don't have to do anything to them except the round ones. I love the Frederick's Convexo, the big round canvases. And those have a medium tooth, and I want a fine tooth. So those, I'll put 1 to 2 coats of gesso and then sand. But I don't prep my own like raw canvas, so I can't give you any advice there. I don't even know how many I would want on that because I just don't do it. To me, prepping the canvas is just time that I could be spending actually painting. I'd rather buy a canvas that's ready to go. With the exception of like the Frederick Convexo canvas, I just love those, but they're not in the tooth I want, so I have to add more coats of gesso so that they will be smooth enough for me. Bryson said, have you ever used stuff in your artwork that wasn't meant to be used as its intended purpose? Sorry if that sounds confusing. Have you ever used stuff in your artwork that wasn't do you mean like using Q-tips to blend graphite? Like, I mean, I have Q-tips here that I use for blending different things, or cleaning areas off if I get too messy with oil painting. Other than that, I have makeup brushes that I use for art. That's about it that I can think of. I don't use a lot of things that aren't intended for art because they're not going to be archival. Like some people will say, well, use baby oil to blend colored pencil. You know, that would be an example, I guess, of that. I would never recommend doing that, well, unless you want to ruin your artwork. Well, it'll look cool for now, but it's not archival, so it's not going to look cool long term. But you definitely want to make sure whatever you're using is working for it. Like, here's an example. A lot of people will tell you, oh, you can just seal or spray your graphite drawings or your colored pencils. Just use hairspray. No, it's not meant for that. It's not archival. It can yellow, it can crystallize and flake off. You can have all kinds of problems. So no, I do, like when it comes to that sort of thing, absolutely not. I want to use products that have been tested and are intended for the use that I'm going to be using them. Let's see. You guys have some interesting questions tonight. Some different than we usually have. This is cool. Sarah Makes Art said, I think the old masters would be amazed at the sheer volume of mediums and colors that are available now. I think you're right. I think they would love, like, this is such a cool period in history, I think, to be an artist. I love all the things that we have available. I mean, the fact that I can Photoshop a design, the fact that I can do digital painting, that's freaking amazing. That I can take a photo of something and share it around the world, that I can make a video of that. I mean, I love, like, I can't think of a better time in history to be an artist. Yeah, she says, I wonder how some of them would do with social media. That would be interesting. It would be interesting, especially for the ones like Van Gogh was known to have mental illness. That would be really interesting to see more of his thoughts, to see more of his thought process on things, how he felt about different things. I think that would really be interesting. Let's see. Any watercolor pan reviews coming up? No, not yet, but I'm not going to say it's out of the question. Mara said, you got me hooked on audiobooks. The City of Bones series. Read it twice. Listening to them again. Your fault. Which one was the City of Bones series? Is that the one by, what is her name, the author of that one? If that's the one, I don't know if I'm confusing it with that, but that one I think I couldn't do because I didn't listen to the audiobooks. I read it myself, if it's the one I'm thinking. I loved the concept. Dear God, that woman needed an editor. There was, like, in the very first book, she was, and I may not be thinking of the same one, so I may be talking about something else totally different, but there's an author, and I want to say it's that one, who, she compared every single thing in the entire book. Everything was like something else. Like, nothing was like, it was a red dress. No, it was red like blood. It was gray like the stone of some mountain or another. It stuck out of the ground like an iceberg. It protruded. Everything was an iceberg. Every page would have, like, 4 comparisons to an iceberg. It was insane. And one of them was something, a plastic blade. It bended like a piece of bending grass, or it bended like a piece of bent grass. Like, what? Did nobody edit this? Those ones were painful for me. I don't know if it's the same one though, but I was mad because I loved, like, the concept. I actually liked the characters. I liked a lot of it. I just had to skip to the talking, the conversation between them, and skip the descriptions because it was so annoying how everything was compared. But I think she also was one who would do blah, 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 said Clary. Blah, 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 said so-and-so. Blah, 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 said Jace. Everything was said someone, said someone. It was a little bit too, that started to wear on me. But I was, like, it seemed like such a fun concept, though. I just couldn't get out of my own way, I think, and enjoyed the story. But I only listened to or read, like, 2 or 3 of them. I didn't listen to them, I read them. Maybe it'd be better if somebody else read them. There are other books that I know, Chronicles of Elantra. I love that series. Well, it turns out a huge reason I like that series so much is because the narrator brings it to life. One of the books, they weren't released yet. Put a lighter gray here. They weren't, or the audiobook wasn't released yet, and I couldn't wait. I was so excited for the next book to come out. So I read it myself. Yeah, not the same. I didn't like the book nearly as much when I read it myself as when the narrator who brought so much life to the character. So I wonder if it's a similar thing. I'm almost tempted to try them again and see if I like it better if somebody else is bringing life to the characters. Because I definitely found that within the Chronicles of Elantra are one of my favorite series. I don't like it when I read that one myself, which is odd because usually I would read myself more often if I had time, but not that one. That one, the narrator is so good that it brought it to life a lot for me. No, DJ, ask more questions. Questions are good. Gustavo said, artists evolve at time. How often do you see back? I'm not sure what you're asking there. What do I use to listen to audiobooks? My phone. Usually my phone, although I have the Amazon, the Echo, I use that like today when I was cleaning, I had it playing on that, but usually I just listen through my phone. Do I like the Prismacolor? Scroll too far. Go back. Do I like the Prismacolor sticks? You know, I've not used them that much. The thing that I like about them is you're avoiding the broken wood casings or the warped casings. The thing that I don't like about them, they're still warped themselves. They look like little boats. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Prisma, can you manage not to have something warped? But I actually have not used mine. I bought a set of them last year and I never got around to doing a project with them. I bought them for something specifically that I wanted. Oh, I remember I wanted to play with them with powder blender, but they're wax-based. They're not going to work well for that, so I don't know what I was thinking. I thought maybe I could lay things down faster, but no, I'm not doing that. So I may use them for something else to get different textures, but I have not used them since I got them. I probably should, though. That'd make a good video. Speaking of voiceovers, I'm working to keep my audio levels even after rewatching your review of... Thank you. That's good to hear. I know, I have to watch myself on that all the time too, making sure like audio level from the voiceover to when I record it on talking on video that matches up. Can you use absorbent ground on canvas instead of gesso for this? I wouldn't want to work on canvas with a colored pencil. Even on the smooth canvases, it's almost like it's too smooth or too rough. There's not a canvas out there that I like the use of colored pencil for. That's just personal preference. But absorbent ground, I don't know. I've not tried it. Probably not, I'm thinking. Maybe? I don't know. I'm making stuff up at that point because I've not tried it. So I'm only like guessing that I wouldn't like it, but I don't know for sure. Fred said isopropyl alcohol works like a solvent too. It does, but it can dry things a bit more. I forget what exactly reasons were that alcohol is not my first choice because of the way that it dries and how it handles with the paper. I don't remember, was it pH thing or what? But it was, I remember looking into it and going, yeah, I'm sticking to OMS. And I can't remember off the top of my head now what it was. I think it was the way that it adjusted the pH or how it dried out the paper. And I can't remember which it was now. Oh my gosh, where did that go? That was funny. Bronwyn said, I'd be terrified to follow Van Gogh on social media. Hashtag drama. Hashtag my ear hurts. That's terrible and hilarious. Mara said, with Nephilim and Parabody Bonded Warriors by Cassandra Clare. Yep, that is her. Those are the books I'm talking about. I could not. And now again, I read them myself, so I wonder if listening on audiobook would make it better because the characters I loved, the story I loved. I wanted to but her writing style was so painfully amateur that I just couldn't do. It was hard. I couldn't, like, getting through those first, I think I read 2 or 3 and was like, I can't take any more iceberg comparisons, and but yeah. I was hoping that the movies would do well, because if they did, start pulling some black in here. If the movies had done well, like I said, I loved the characters. I liked I liked her concept. It was kind of like an artist, I felt like, who has an idea for a great painting, but has never actually painted before, so they don't know how to blend, how to make things mesh, how to compose things. And I felt like that's what was happening with her book. Like, I loved the concept. Her execution was painful for me. But I wonder, though, like I was saying with the books, the Chronicles of Elantra, I don't like those when I read myself, so I wonder if it would be the same with that one. If I would like it when someone else read it. Am I sponsored by QT? I am not, but I should be, because these teas are... Well, actually, this isn't even their tea. It's just their cup, because I reuse them. I keep washing it out. It's so big, and I'm always thirsty, so that's my own tea. It's actually Stash Raspberry. I just ordered more, too. Raspberry Pomegranate Green Tea. Oh, it is good. I absolutely love that tea. Strongly recommend it. Not sponsored by Stash, either. But you can get on Amazon a box of 100. I think I paid like $16 or $14, something like that, for 100 tea bags. And for a big pot of iced tea, like I use 2 in a cup that size, and for a big, like, pitcher of iced tea, I use 8 or 9 bags. I forget, 8 or 9 bags. 9. So you get a lot of tea out of that for that price. Way cheaper than going to QT all the time. Okay, let's go ahead and blend that out. Where did my brush go? Oh, there it is. Yeah, Mortal Instruments Cassandra Clare. So, yep, that's the same one. The blade, God, what was it? It was so bad that my husband and I, to this day, and that was like, I don't know, 10 years ago I read that, maybe not quite that, maybe 9 years. To this day, we joke about the piece of bending, the blade that bent like a piece of bent grass. Like, oh, painful. Do I ever use a grid? I did on my first portrait. I decided, hey, I'll use a grid to, like the first one that I was talking about earlier. I decided to use a grid to make sure everything was perfect, and my grid was slightly off, and I had to end up freehanding everything, and it came out way better than the grid. So I don't bother with the grid. For me, my brain understands freehanding much better than it understands grids. Like, grids there's math involved. Me and math? No. Just no. Go back. It's funny talking about the Cassandra Clare books too. There's a book that I'm listening to right now. I've listened to multiple times. It's a series of 6, the Dragonian series. One of my absolute favorite series, and I have read a couple of them on my own. It's painful. There's so many errors. The grammar, there's so many mistakes, and you don't notice the mistakes as much when it's being read by another narrator. You don't catch them as badly. So that is, now I'm kind of like, oh, I kind of want to try those books again with someone reading it, because I love the characters. Okay. If I love fantasy books, I bet you're going to love The Way of the Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I have not heard of that one. I will have to look into it. Am I going to add magenta or purple to the background? And can you get a super smooth looking background with this product? You can. You absolutely can. One of my smoothest ones I did, if you go and look at even right now I'm starting to get to that point of it being super smooth. Go and look at my cherries with this product. Really, really smooth on that one. And this one's going to be really smooth as I blend, the more layers I get on here. I mean, basically when you start, you're fighting against the light paper. And when you want it to be this dark, you're going to have to add a lot of layers to get it dark enough. And then it'll get more and more smooth because you have less of that paper showing through. I need to go see who narrates those books now. Like, I really wanted those movies to do well because I wanted to see, like, the rest of the story because I liked the concept. Anyway, I'll stop rambling about that. Oh, and am I going to add magenta? I'm going back and forth on that. Part of me wants to add some purple over here because this portion's going to be black and white, and I think that might make the black and white look more obvious that it's black and white, and then I'll have the hint of green in her hair, and then the purple around her eye, like Beetlejuice. So I've been going back and forth. I haven't made my mind up for sure. But that's the fun thing. I can add that later. Like I don't have to decide things right in the beginning when I'm working with this product like I would if I were doing a normal colored pencil piece. I always say normal, but I guess this is technically normal. But if I were blending with odorless mineral spirits, I need to plan that out first. You can't go back and change a whole lot with that, where this I can. This I can experiment as I go along. So if I change my mind, whatever, it doesn't really matter. So I'm leaning towards adding purple in that, or like a plum color. We'll see. Technically, I can add it, and if I don't like it, just go black and white back on top of it. So maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay. Oh, you know what I got? I always forget that I have. Let's see how well this works. I got this little thing. It blows air. I don't have to blow. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, this is way easier. Oh, it works good. I've never tried it before. I got it months ago, and I totally forgot I had it until just now. Look at that. Ah, this is cool. If you're looking for what it is, it's called a, I don't know what this is. Glottos. Patented. That's useful. I got it on Amazon. I'm going to guess that it's not called an air blowy thing, which is what I would have named it. Okay. Kind of excited because that was cool. Okay, let's go ahead and spray this and we'll answer some more questions. And you can get this done faster than what I'm doing right now. I always work slow when I'm talking on the live streams. Okay. Gonna go with a light layer. Oh, this is better if I go light. I'm not pushing the nozzle down all the way, and it's not spitting like it did that first time. Was spitting really bad because, like I said, I need to wash this one out. But this is actually working, and I get to be lazy by just barely pushing on that little button. Whew. Okay. Let's go back to some questions. Okay, let's see. Nylera said, me again. Any more advices for managing your professional or business's art profile on social media? You've got to find a balance, I think, of sharing yourself in your personal life with still being professional. Like, I see people that overshare where, for example, unless you're like someone's following you because of, they're following you because of a certain diet or whatever, then that makes sense to post pictures of your food. But for me, like for me to start posting pictures of my, whatever I ate that day, no one wants to see that. No one cares. So trying to post things I think that are entertaining to people or kind of interesting, or even me, like, okay, I'm super obsessed with my plants. I love plants. I'm really into adeniums right now. Those and of course my orchids. But I have to limit myself because I want to post 800 photos of my cool plants every day. Obviously, that's not what people are following me for. It's okay for me to post every once in a while because that is sharing another side of myself, but I don't want to do it so much that people are like, why am I following her? I am really sick of seeing these flowers or seeing these plants or whatever. So I think you have to find a balance. I think sharing your pets, especially if you can include your art supply in some for artists, include our art supplies next to some of these things. That helps. Like I could post a photo of my dogs and my pencils next to them, or, make sure it's safe for them to be, you don't want to put them next to your oil paints or anything like that. But you can incorporate them a little bit more often. But I think if you do too much of nonstop personal stuff, sometimes people who followed you just to see the art, they'll see nonstop personal stuff. And I've done this before where I unfollowed people because it was like, why am I following this person? It's nothing but personal. I don't care about their coffee today. I don't care about like nonstop 800 posts of things that have nothing to do with art. I've unfollowed people because I kind of start to forget, why did I follow them in the first place? What art are they producing? Because all I'm seeing right now is personal stuff. So I think you need to find a balance of that. But I do think it's important to share your personal life as well. Let people get to know you. I think it builds more of that kind of community and that trust. For like if somebody's going to buy something, when you're making sales on the internet, it's it's scary to buy something from someone that you don't know anything about. But if you've developed that trust, that just kind of almost like a relationship, let people see who you are, that you're a real person, that you're not just some random company mass producing artwork like you see some of these things online. Showing your personal life shows you're not just one of those. So you just have to find that balance of that. The other thing is, watch that you don't hard sell too much, meaning like, this is for sale, now this is for sale, 10 posts of something for sale, oh look, and here I'm showing you something where I'm teaching you something. Make sure that it's, as a general rule, they say give, take. So give them information, something that's interesting to them, and then ask them, here's my thing for sale. Now here's 2 free bits of information, and here's something I'm selling. You don't, and I don't follow that myself. I don't sell enough. I'm not a good example. I don't push enough for the paintings I have for sale. I throw them on my website, and then I never tell people about them. But I don't use me as an example there. I do a bad job because I focus so much on videos now. But you make sure you don't try overselling. I mean, there was a girl that I used to follow on Facebook, and she had a lot of really cool things, coffee mugs with her artwork. She had so many prints. And every day there were like 10 posts of something else she was trying to sell. But nothing like, that's all it was trying to sell. If you try to sell too much, people will unfollow you. They don't want that on social media. You want to make sure you get a nice balance there of do it, but not too much. Make sure you're also doing, like, if you're doing tutorials, for me, I would want to make sure I'm doing a lesson, doing a tutorial in between. And even if you're not necessarily teaching, like, I always remember this one guy, Daniel Tanner. He is an excellent artist who works in colored pencil and graphite, and he had done a tutorial. Like, he didn't have that many followers to start with. He did not a tutorial, it was like a step-by-step of how he draws a tree in colored pencil. And I want to say it was 4 or 6 steps, 10 steps, I don't remember. But it was one post, all these steps. It was so shareable. Everyone wanted to share it because it was such a cool technique. So like, you learn so much from this one image of showing you step by step how he did it. That is perfect. So even if you don't want to teach, even if you're not getting into making videos, something like that people are interested in seeing is going to keep them coming back. Now Facebook's a little weird. No one sees anything on Facebook anymore anyway, so I'm getting to where I'm losing interest in Facebook myself, other than our groups. I love our art group, but like my Facebook personal page, they don't show it to anybody. So that one I'm not doing as much, but like Instagram, Twitter, those ones I post more on, and not so much with Twitter, kind of Twitter. But finding that balance, don't try to nonstop sell to people because you'll lose them too. They're not going to be interested that way. So everything is about balance. I'm not sure how helpful that is. Isopropyl alcohol, also for managing your profiles, I'm using, who do I use? Buffer. I have their account. I want to say it's like $10 a month or something like that. And what is it? $5? I don't even remember now. I need to look that up. But that one's really cool because you can schedule posts. So I can have posts go up at 7 in the morning, even though I'm actually asleep at 7 in the morning. So that's actually handy because you can have a lot of stuff. Another big tip, post motivational things for people. So even if it's not a tutorial, if it's a motivational quote, something that makes people feel good, I think that that's a really important thing to do for your social media, for growing that and keeping people interested. There we go, and scroll too far. Isopropyl alcohol leaves residue after drying. Ew, that's not good. Am I changing colors? Tamara said, am I changing colors in the background? The textures are very interesting on camera. If not, here is a little bit lighter than this side, and this side down here is darker, but there's not a huge change yet. There will be. I mean, this is darker. It looks darker on camera just because the lights are up here. But this is going to be darker. It's going to be a warm gray and then into cool gray. Or this actually may end up being purple. So, I don't know yet. Let's see. Now, like I said, I want to create an account, but I don't know what to post first. Do you mean for social media? Post photos of your artwork to start with. Just get used to just how the platform you're joining works. Just post photos to start with of your art. I think is safe. Just jump in, honestly. You don't want to run around too. One thing to really avoid if you're just starting with social media, a lot of people will see the share for share, follow me and I'll follow you back. Or if you share my post, I'll share your post. Don't do that. It doesn't grow. You're not going to grow that way. It's only from people who aren't actually interested in your content, which depending on the platform with Facebook, that actually hurts you if you've got a ton of people following you and you're not getting them interacting with your stuff, like the people who actually would be interested in your stuff may not see it because Facebook would share it with people who signed up just to follow you, because then you'd follow them. Don't do follow for follows, share for share, trade for trade, whatever all those little things are. Don't do any of that. Mara Black says, I can't have sugar. Is that a tea you don't need to add it to? I don't eat sugar. Actually, I take that back. I have sugar in my coffee creamer. There's some, just a little. But in my tea, I don't add, weird, suddenly super dizzy. Every once in a while I'll get hit like that. But the tea does not have any sugar in it. It actually has a really nice flavor. Maybe talking and not breathing enough. Jeez. I have one of the things with fibromyalgia. I get randomly. I'll get really, really dizzy. Never did figure out what it was. Let's see. Okay. But yeah, I don't add sugar to it. I don't add sugar to any of my tea. I mean, even just green tea by itself, black tea. I don't have sugar in my tea at all. Sarah McSart said, I tried the grid method just to try it, and I decided it wasn't for me. It's too technical. Yeah, I think that was the problem with me. What is your preferred method for your initial outline trace sketch? I use a graphite on tracing paper and then transfer it to my canvas surface. What did you use for this piece? I mean, depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I want a freehand. Sometimes I want a tracing and transfer paper. Sometimes, in this case, I used a projector. So with my projector, I have a USB thing, and I just put the image onto the USB card and then, or the device, and then just project it onto the paper. Lisa said the TV show Shadowhunters is based on the book series. Really? Because that TV series looked super interesting to me, so that makes sense. I need to look into that. Vladimir said, have you ever read the book series or heard a series of unfortunate events? Yeah, actually, wasn't that a movie? Didn't they have a movie with, like, I want to say Jim Carrey? Or he was like a bad guy? Or am I mixing that up with something else? I may be mixing that up with something else. I don't know with Netflix. I haven't looked at that. And that just scrolled too far. Where we go. Okay, I think I am caught up. Okay, so let's go on to the next layer. So hopefully get one more layer on here before the live stream is over. I'm going to... Okay. Now, if you start getting little flakes where like little white chunks are showing through, what's happening is some of these areas, let me see if I can make it happen here. Like if I lightly go over this, can you kind of see those little white flakes? What happens is I sprayed my spray a little too heavy there. And so I had heavy water droplets, and then I didn't, well, not water droplets. They're just heavy droplets. And then I didn't let it dry all the way. Right now I should let that dry a little bit longer. Actually, I should put a ceiling fan on in here. But I didn't let it dry all the way. And so it's just flaking up. But look, as I blend over it, it goes away completely. So if that happens where those little flakes start showing through, just keep blending over it. It'll cover completely. It's not a big deal. A plug for my projector. It is the Artograph. I forget which one. If you look up Lachri and projector on YouTube, I did a video on it, and I don't even know if they make that one anymore because they had problems with the remote control. The battery wouldn't sit in right, and so you couldn't get it to work, and you kind of need that remote. So they sent me a replacement. Actually, the company was great to work with, so I would definitely buy from them again. But mine, they had a lot of problems, and so I'm wondering if they just aren't making that one anymore. But it was made by LG, I think. I want to say it was LG was the maker of it. It's the same as the LG something or another else. The software was the only thing that was slightly different. Okay. Yeah, okay, it was with Jim Carrey. Yeah, that movie I thought was good. I didn't know it was a series. I'll have to look into that. Oh, thanks for telling me. So I liked that movie. Oh no! JPC13 Art said the Shadowhunters TV series is terrible. I would not recommend it. The writing is so bad. Was it written by the original author of the books then? Because that would make sense to me. I wish she would learn to like, I don't know, maybe taking a writing course before she wrote those books. Great concept. It was a very, Buffy the Vampire-esque type feel, I thought, which I liked. But, dear God. Like, and I'm not super picky about everything being perfect. Like the Dragonian series that I keep mentioning. There's a lot of mistakes in that one. But the story is so good, I can deal with it. But not to the extent that Cassandra Clare, or whatever her name is, did. Those were bad. I'm curious though. I am gonna see who the narrator is, because a good narrator can almost make up for that. Okay. Is it not okay to use the blow dryer after spraying with a powder blender or fixative? Originally they said don't, because it didn't dry evenly, but then I guess they've tested and they've done that more and said it was okay. I've not done it myself. I'm lazy. I just use that as an excuse to take a break. How many layers am I doing on this background? I don't know. I haven't decided. I mean, I will do as many as needed. How's that as an answer? Until it looks smooth, I'm going to keep, and until I get the color pigment where I want. I'm just going to keep layering and layering until I get the look that I'm going for. And the best part about that is I don't even know what look I'm going for yet, because I may change colors. I'm experimenting. Like, if I'm going to experiment with colored pencil, now that is one thing. Someone had asked if they should do powder blender first or regular, odorless mineral spirits to get started. If you like to experiment and make changes in your art, so like with me, if I paint something in acrylics, I can be like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to put planets behind these whales, so I'm going to paint the whales and I can go put the planets behind later. I can't do that with colored pencil normally. I would have to have that all pre-done, because you have to maintain the integrity of the paper, and there's just so much involved. With this, I could make that choice later on. So if I'm going to experiment, if I like to get kind of creative, if I want to do stuff surreal and change stuff up a lot, then this would be my recommended way to go. Will I be able to review the Camlin brand oil and acrylic paints? It's famous Indian brand among artists. It's available on Amazon. Compare it to international brands. I don't know. Maybe? I'll have to look into it. I doubt I would bother with the acrylics, because I really like Liquitex. But maybe with the oils. I'd have to see, if they're... A lot of the companies, one of the problems I'm having with some of the other companies online that are selling their products from, especially the ones that come from China, they're not doing light fast testing. For example, as far as I can tell, I was in contact with the people from Artzea. They kept emailing me. Will you review our products, and you get a 20% bonus or 20% commission if you sell them. I'm like, I'm not going to just turn into your salesperson. Like, if I like a product, I turn into a salesperson just because I like the product, not because I'm making money off of it. But I'm not, you're not going to convince me to make videos. And that's the thing. Most of the videos you see online where people are pushing those on... now, I've not personally watched any, so I don't know who any of the people who have reviewed them are, so I'm not talking bad about anyone who has. But do know that Artzea's big thing is, of course, if you sell their products, you get a 20% commission. Know that about reviews. Know what people are getting in return for that. I think that matters for me. Like Amazon reviews, I don't trust when it was given, they were given free products for. So, anyway, Artzea, I asked them, I'm like, okay, I'll consider trying out your products. Do you have a copy of the Light Fast reviews for them? She said, oh God, what did she respond? It didn't even make sense. She I don't think she knew what I was asking for. But she said, sure, God, how did you, actually, here, I'll just read it to you. But this is why I'm just not into a lot of the stuff that are, like, the different testing, what we test for in the U.S. versus there. Like, if they're not doing the toxicity reports, like, we're having problems with Holbein. If they're not doing some of these, if we don't know what the light fast ratings are, I don't want to get into continuously reviewing products that I wouldn't personally use myself because of those reasons. So I have to look into that one, though, because those ones might have tested for that. But let's see. if I've got the one. Arteza. Is that what it was? No? Artzea, art something. Maybe I deleted it. Let me see if I can find it really quick. And it was weird because when I asked her about that and I was like, okay, can you give me this information? She told me something about which product, and I said all the products. I want to know what all of those, like, you should have testing on all of that. I didn't get snippy like that. I was just like, all of them? And I never heard back from her, and I thought that was interesting given they were emailing me constantly. Yeah, okay, so this person, and they email me and it's a different person constantly, like, I get so many emails. So I said, can you provide me with the light fast ratings of your products? She said, certainly, it's not a problem. What exactly products do you mean? Hope for a proper reply. It's like, huh? I mean, all of them? I want to know the light fast ratings on all of your products. I don't understand. And that was June 6th, and I've not heard back, which is odd because they were emailing me several times a day. And then later that day, I get another email from someone at their company asking the same thing. Like, they didn't know anyone had contacted me yet. Hey, will you review our products? We'll give you 20% of the sales and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know. It just felt a little kind of shady to me. Whether it is shady or not, I don't know. I just kind of got a bad, like, when they didn't respond to me with that. Maybe she'll get back to me eventually with those light fast ratings. Maybe she's looking into it. I don't think so. I don't think they have them. Because that's what I said. Do you have I want the light fast ratings for all of them, or are these children's art supplies? I may have irritated her. I never heard back. Until somebody else the next, a few hours later contacts me. Hey, we'd like to work with you. We'll give you 20%. Like, again? Seriously? I don't want 20%. I want to know if your products are any good. You cannot pay me to recommend something that I don't personally like. I think that's a good way to kill a channel. But anyway, point is, the Indian one I'll have to look into because I don't know if it's like that where they aren't doing the testing that I would personally require. Like, I did the testing of the Marco Refine. I've done testing of pencils that people really wanted. But the thing is, they're not testing for light fast. And I think from here on, I'm kind of hesitant to try something or use products that don't give you that information. I want to know, to me, if you don't have that information, then you're not making a serious art supply. You're making children's supplies. I mean, they're good enough to learn with. But I really want, and now I'm not talking about the ones from India that you're talking about. I'm talking about the ones from Artzea. But like Artzea, I get the feeling that those are more like children's supplies, and that's definitely not what my channel is about. So I don't want to keep doing those. I'm rambling now. Oh, this is interesting. Valerie wants to have a talk about Artzea. She said, I had issues to warn about. The plot thickens. Lisa says that Artzea products have light fast ratings on them, so do their gouache. See, why can't they tell me that then? I don't understand why they didn't tell me that. Why did they just like, oh, I'm not going to talk to you. Someone else is going to try to convince you now that not on the same email, but like a new email, like we're going to start over. I'm just kind of not trusting them at this point. Anyway, Rachel said, have you tried the Caran d'Ache Supercolor watercolor pencils? I have not, but I really want to. They are interesting. Nilira said, how do you stay motivated when you're working on a commission piece that is not your original idea? I've had that happen, and my big thing is, like, I'll get an idea for something else that I want to do. Because that does happen. You'll be doing a commission, and you're just like, I just need to get it done because I need to get paid. And I agreed to do it, but I'm not super into it at this point. I make myself finish it. Now, take the time needed to make it good. It needs to be good, but I try to finish it, like, really focus and get it done as quickly as possible so that I can move on to something else that I have another idea about. What I would have a hard time doing is I would get into the idea, like, I'm not really in the mood, so I'm not going to work on it today. I'm not in the mood, so I'm not going to. So I would put it off so long. Just get it done. Just sit down and get it done. So that was what I would do. Artzea 3-star is not light fast. The 1-star is most light fast, kind of backwards. Oh, that is backwards. Yeah, and again, I don't know a whole lot about the Artzea products. All I know is I got a weird feeling from those emails where I was like, wait, why did you just disappear? You're emailing me constantly. I finally respond to you. I ask a genuine question, are they light fast? Well, which ones do you want? All of the, I want to know what all of the light fast ratings are. Like, why is this a thing? Like, don't be shady. You're being shady. Okay, so I'm going to blend this with powder blender, and then I'm going to go ahead and put up a little bit of the titanium white powder. We'll start in with that for this layer, and I'll do several layers after this, but not tonight. Would I recommend the Brunzeel pencils? I actually don't know anything about them, so I can't say. If they were at a local Tuesday morning, right there kind of makes me go, maybe not. I don't know. Actually, I guess that's not true because I've seen name brand things. I remember when we moved into this apartment, I went into Tuesday morning. I've not shopped there often, but I remember going in there and they had some silverware and stuff that was name brand. So I don't know anything about them. So I've got, you can see a little bit of powder on there. You don't need a ton. And we'll start blending and see each layer. See how it just gets, I'm getting the darkness that I want and how nice and smooth it starts to look. Now, not pushing very hard with this. It's getting a buildup at the base there. Let's see. Valerie said she's dealt with Artzea directly with issues. Then I am very intrigued now. Now, I also personally don't super trust startup companies with art supplies. Like, you've not been doing it long enough for me to have known long term how your stuff's going to hold up. Like, Liquid Text has been around for a while. I know how their stuff holds up. Like, a lot of people know how they hold up, and I'm not super comfortable with art suppliers that just came up out of nowhere and will probably disappear in a few days. You know, that haven't been around that long. I'm definitely hesitant about that sort of thing. Like, same thing with, I feel the same about generic art supplies, like Hobby Lobby makes their own acrylic, and all of those companies got into it because the profits, they don't make a lot. What I was told with Hobby Lobby is they don't, so I'm assuming it's the same across the board, but Hobby Lobby doesn't make a lot of money on their art supply section. Like, they actually lose money on that. So that's why they started carrying their own, that they would have a bigger profit margin on. And I mean, everybody does it. Aaron Brothers does it. Michaels does it. Everyone is selling more of their own. I don't trust that. I don't trust that you know what you're doing in making these supplies. Like, you know what you're doing in selling the supplies, but not necessarily in making them. And that's definitely, like, I don't know. I feel like they're cheaping out on stuff. So I've always been a bit hesitant with a lot of different companies that aren't super well known. And I guess that sucks for a new company that's trying to, you know, getting a new product out there and in front of people. But a lot of these, like Artzea, I don't know. I got a weird feeling when talking to them that I was just like, no, I don't think so. So I thought that I was going to test them, like, because I do get requested to do that a lot. And then the way that they responded to that, I was kind of like, I'm going to go with a no on that. See, here, some of what I just did that dark, it's going to have to be white, but it won't even matter. You're not even really going to see. I mean, I can erase it, but just to keep my place, but not a big deal. Okay. Let's see. I've been drawing flowers and would like to try drawing animals, especially my dog. I've tried and it looks bad. I would like to try again, but how do I begin? Try tracing. Get a good photo of your dog. Get a close-up of his face. Don't get a photo of him across the room. Get a close-up of his face. And when you take the photo, take it from, like, here, even with him. Don't look down on him. That's going to be harder to make look good. It can be done, but it's a lot harder to make that angle look good. And practice tracing it a few times and then freehand it. Trace a few times, freehand. That's going to teach you to draw more accurately and to notice things you didn't notice when you were just freehanding. So like I said, the goal, I always say this with tracing, the goal is not to forever trace. The goal is to start noticing things you didn't notice before. You still need to freehand. You still need to learn to freehand. But this will help you to learn a lot faster. So I would say that would be a good step. Because right now your brain thinks it knows what your dog looks like because you see him every day. Obviously you know what he looks like. You don't. We don't know all the little things. There's little details you're not catching, and if you can trace things, that makes it easier to see that. So one of the things I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the same brush that I've been using for powder blender. I'm going to wipe it off on a paper towel. And I am going to use my colored pencil titanium white. This is in the powder. This is the stuff that you'll see me use quite a bit for when I mix it with the touch-up texture. And I'm going to put a little bit of that on my lid. And I'm just going to dip. You can see it's in that little cup. I'm just going to dip my brush in that, get a little bit of that on there. Tap some of that off because that's probably way too much. Let's start mixing some of that in. So what I'm doing, it almost looks like I'm wiping some of this off. I'm not. The reason this is getting lighter is because I'm using white, this powder. And you can get really nice, soft, smudgy blending on areas that you want lighter. I'm going to do this in a few layers. This won't be the final layer. But I wanted to show you guys how you can use this for some of this blending. See, now Heather's got the right idea. Heather said, I've been here for almost the entire time just watching and relaxing, of course, learning. I only use the Art Zaya for letter practicing, and the refines are only for sketching. Yeah, some of those products, like the generics, I can see you doing for that, for like little practice type things. I'm with you on that. Because, and I've got some stuff that I've gotten from Smart Art Box that I wouldn't necessarily use on my other artwork, but I keep it because I think that it would be good for that. Now that looks nice. I like that with more, but be careful because see now I've got that white chunk. I've got to blend that out a bit better. Let's push a little harder. There we go. And this works out really well too. It's a cool white, and that's what I'm wanting for this side. Like I was saying earlier, I want this side to be a little bit cooler. So that works. Now some of this I am knocking product off. Just blend some of this in. Oops, push a little hard there. I need a lot more on my brush. Which colored pencils are not wax? I plan to make upgrades and I want to make sure my investment makes a difference. I plan to dig a hole and bury my Prismacolor. The Faber-Castell Polychromos are oil-based. Those are probably my favorite oil-based pencil. You also have like all of the pencils are a combination of wax and oil. It's a matter of how much of each, but I would go with the Faber-Castell Polychromos. See how it gives really pretty soft look there. I just wanted a little bit there, and I'm actually going to blend that out into the darker gray. So I'm going to put some more gray pencil. So I knocked some of that pencil off, so I want to put a little bit more in there and pull that around. Wipe that white off. I'm going to get a little bit more powder blender on the brush, or I say brush, but the sponge. Just lightly go over that. And I'll do a few more layers. I'll probably do a few more layers tonight. Not on the live stream. I'm going to go take a break. Let's go ahead and spray this. Actually, let's use my handy little blower guy. Oh, this is so cool. If you're not subscribed already to the Colored Pencil podcast, you should be. This is actually John Middick, my co-host. He's the one who told me about this, and I was like, what? I went and bought it on Amazon, and I just never got around to using it, and this is awesome. You can find out about fun stuff like this on the Colored Pencil podcast. We actually have a channel. We've been uploading the podcast here to YouTube, too, so you can actually listen to them there if you want to. It's all audio, so it's like listening to a radio show. Okay, let me go ahead and spray this. Okay. That is all I'm going to accomplish for tonight. Ooh, 2 minutes to spare on that memory card, too. That was a good time to go ahead and cut that off. Let's see. Vladimir said, I just did some research on Artzea, and it's much cheaper than store-bought canvas, and apparently, according to Marcus, Fuzzles art are 100% cotton, and in my opinion, are like generic. So here's the thing with canvas. 100% cotton doesn't mean it's good. I mean, 100% cotton can be good, but linen can be good. I think my Frederick's Blue Label is a polyflax cotton blend, and that's one of my favorites. So a lot of companies will try to use, I think tag words are like, look, it's all cotton. Okay, that can be good. What's it primed with? How are your stretcher bars? Do your stretcher bars, do they have a tendency to warp? What are you stapling with? Are those staples going to rust really bad? I want more, just being cotton, people will put these like keywords that don't necessarily mean anything. Like, something will put on a label, it's sugar-free. That doesn't mean it's good for you. It's a keyword that people see and they're like, oh, it must be healthy. I'm going to get that. Look at the rest of the ingredients. And I feel that it's the same with a lot of the art suppliers. I see that a lot. I mean, you see it in tech, you see it in everything. They'll use these few keywords because it sounds fancy, like a camera. It's 800 million megapixels. Yeah, I'm exaggerating, but it's 25 megapixels. That doesn't mean that it's good at all. Like, at all. That has very little to do with how good that camera is. Everything else is, and it's the same thing with the canvas. 100% cotton. Okay. I mean, it's some information. Some information is better than none, but that doesn't indicate that it's good. It doesn't indicate that it's bad, but it also doesn't tell me if it's any good. So that's definitely, Vladimir said, like, Artist Loft canvas, do not like those myself. I actually think I still have one. I'm using it to hold my other canvases in place. It's a divider because they're warped like crazy. They were really bad in the gesso. I didn't like the gesso. Artist Loft that one's, I think, Michael's, their generic brand. Them and the generic from, I use the generic from, what is it called? Aaron Brothers. Tried it from Hobby Lobby, and I got so sick of canvases warping, of paint not sticking. That was another thing. Like, someone must have gotten oil on them at some point because they're acrylic primed canvases. There were certain areas of the canvas the paint wouldn't stick to. It kept bubbling or coming up like oil was smeared across it. And it wasn't from me, I guarantee that. So, I mean, I had a lot of really weird things like that happen with a lot of those generic things, and that's where I was like, I'm done. I am sticking to Frederick's. I am not even going to mess with this stuff anymore. So that, I mean, having those bad experiences is what pushed me to be such a huge Frederick's fangirl, because I've never had a problem with Frederick's. But everything from holes being put through the canvas, I've had nonstop problems with a lot of the other ones. Sometimes they were good, sometimes they were totally fine. But I'm not willing to risk a painting on it may or may not be okay. I'd rather go with one I know is going to be. And I feel like that with a lot of these art supplies. They do that keyword of, like you said, 100% cotton. Okay, what's it primed with? What are the stretcher bars made out of? How is it stretched? Is it stretched even? Is it even stapled uneven? I mean, those type of things. Anyway, I'm ranting. I always get super tired towards the end of the live stream, and then I just rant. Let's see. I've been asked I've been asked to be a guest on a podcast tomorrow with Don Victor. Have you heard of him? Any thoughts, advice? I have not. But as somebody who does podcast, I will say, do it as, try to be natural. That's easy to say. Be yourself. Act when you're on the podcast. It's a phone call. You're having a chat with somebody. Be comfortable. Don't be nervous. That's the thing. Like, you don't need to be nervous. The podcast isn't as scary as some people might think that it would be. It's basically just a phone call and having a chat. And if you can go in with that mindset of, I'm just going to go and chat, answer his questions, be comfortable, that's going to make the podcast much more interesting and much more enjoyable for the listeners. Try not to work yourself up too much about it. Go in and have fun. Have a conversation with him. And as much as possible, forget you're on a podcast. Just have that conversation. Don't forget and start swearing or anything like that, but don't work yourself up too much about it. I think it's easy to do that, and then you don't have fun, and then that shows. If you're not having fun, it shows in the podcast. Big tip, smile when you talk. I always get on John about that. You can tell when someone is smiling because it's something that's audio. They're not going to be watching you. And if you're not smiling, the listener can tell if you're not happy, if you're just, You want to sound happier? Smile. Even though it's only audio and no one can see it, they can hear it in your voice. So I guess I did have some tips. Okay. Yeah, Valerie said live streams wear me out. They really do me too. Like I get super, and I already wasn't feeling super great. Actually, I think the reason I got dizzy might have been I'm going through Benadryl withdrawals right now. Side story, this has nothing to do with art, but last week after the live stream, I was sitting outside on my balcony, and I usually use a lotion that repels mosquitoes, and I don't know if I just didn't put it on that day. I don't know if it's just not working anymore. I don't know, but I got bit 4 times in one foot and 1 time in the other foot, and the one that got bit 4 times swelled up like 5 times my normal size. It looked like, you know, when people take a rubber glove and fill it with water and make a water balloon out of it? That's basically what my foot looked like. I had like the foot version of that. It swelled up so bad. So I took a bunch of Benadryl, or for a couple of days, I took Benadryl, and me and Benadryl don't get along well. I go through withdrawals when I stop taking it. I get super, like right now, I'm really nauseated from not having it. So, and I only took it for 3 days in a row. To try to help with the swelling, because apparently I was having an allergic reaction. Didn't help with the swelling, by the way. My foot's back to normal, but now I'm dealing with that, and so I think it irritates the fibromyalgia side of things. Something doesn't play nice with me, and anyway, so I'm thinking that's why I keep getting dizzy tonight. This happens to me every so often like that. Really annoying. Let's see, Mara says, I use gallery wrap canvas, loved it, don't want to use my other one because it's an expensive one, and I want a special painting to go on. I think I'll just hang it up blank. Oh my gosh, can I relate to you on that? I do that. Okay, this paper, this board, these are not cheap. I mean, they're not super expensive, but they're not real cheap. And I find myself I want to save them. I'm going to save it for the perfect project. Why? Use it. I do that all the time. I've got canvases. I've got a couple over here. These Fredericks behind me, they're linen canvases. And this is the extra funny part. If I contact Fredericks, I have like an allowance I'm able, because of the sponsorship, they'll send me when I want more. But I still, even knowing they'll send me more if I ask them for it, I am like, it's a super expensive canvas. I don't want to use it up. It has to be for the perfect painting. I have to save it. I don't know. Why do we do that with our art supplies? We get them and then we're like, I don't want to use them. I don't want to waste it. It has to be for the perfect thing. We have to get, like, I tell myself that all the time. Get over it. Just use it. That's so funny that you're doing it too. Heather said, can I share the link to Colored Pencil Podcast? Actually, I guess I technically could. Here, hold. Well, actually, no, here. Go to sharpenedartist.com. I will type that here. I don't have the link to the one in YouTube. You can just look up Colored Pencil Podcast on YouTube. But if you want to go to... that should take you to the podcast list. Or you can go to... I don't think that's actually a link. Oh, well. You can go to... like, if you look up Colored Pencil Podcast on iTunes, on SoundCloud, I don't know, it's all over the place. You just type in the Colored Pencil Podcast and you'll find us, and including here on YouTube. Answer a couple more questions. Can I tell you the mechanism by which the powder blender works and how is it better than Mona Lisa paint thinner? It's basically a lubricant, and it makes it slides it around. It's different. Like Mona Lisa odorless paint thinner, or the OMS, it's going to be almost dissolve the pigment into the paper or the binders, so the pigment is dissolved into that paper. So it's kind of making it stay put. Whereas this, it almost makes them behave more like pastels, just not quite as messy as pastels. I'm not going to say it's better than the paint thinner, just they're two different ways to work. It depends on which one you want to go with. It's faster, that's for sure. There are certain things that I like way better about this than odorless mineral spirits, but like for me, I like working both ways, so I'm not going to give one up for the other. I almost look at it as two different mediums because they're two different ways of working. I'm not sure that that's helpful for you. Sarah says, some people might think anything that doesn't have gluten is good for you. There's a video on YouTube making fun of it. Is it, what is his name? JP something. I think I know which one you're talking about. And that's so true. That always drove me crazy because I have celiac disease, so I can't have gluten. But people seem to think that gluten-free means healthy. Snickers are gluten-free. They're not healthy. It's so funny how many people, I know what you mean. It's like, gluten's not bad for everybody. It's just those of us who have an intolerance to it can't have it. But I still know what you mean. It always makes me laugh. Like, people get into this keyword of, and then everyone wants to put it on the packaging. And it's like, well, it's not bad for everybody. Although I do love the current gluten-free craze because it means that there are lots of places that I can eat now, like restaurants and stuff that like make menus that are gluten-free. So that when I first found out I had celiac disease, I couldn't eat out anymore. I was kind of depressed because it was like with my husband, I'm like, we can't go out to dinner anymore. I can't eat anywhere. There were a few places at the time that I could, but as much as the gluten-free craze and everyone thinking gluten-free means healthy irritates me, it also benefits me because there's so many more places I can eat. Let's see. Caitlin said, any tips for drawing elephants in colored pencil? About to start my first one. I want to go super realistic with my work. I know I'll freak out if every wrinkle isn't there. Well, pro tip, you don't need every wrinkle. Like, you're not going to be able to tell. If you look up, if you go to my website, Lachri.com, under my gallery, I have a painting, and it's here on YouTube too, of some Asian elephants. Not every wrinkle is there, and they still look super realistic. What you want to do is make sure that your wrinkles are going in the right direction, and watch your highlights and your shadows, get those there, but they don't all have to be there, and they don't all have to be exact. If you can spend that much time if you want to, but it's not necessarily going to make the work better if they're the exact same as your reference photo. As long as you're capturing that look of they're going, like I said, they're going in the right direction, they curve where they need to, you've got highlights and shadows where they need to, you'll be okay. But if you can get to a point where I think you spend too much time trying to make every single wrinkle exact, and no one's going to know the difference. As long, I use that reference photo as a guideline, but it's the same thing when I draw fur or feathers. Like if I draw a flamingo, I'm not going to have every single feather exact. I'm going to have it close, but they don't need to be exact. I don't need to spend that kind of time. It's not going to improve the artwork as long as I capture close. With the exception, let's say I do something super zoomed in on a flamingo, then I might do every feather exact if it's like one, study. If I'm doing the whole bird, I'm going for close, not every single feather. So that would be, if I were to tackle an elephant in colored pencil, let's say I was working with odorless mineral spirits, I would start by getting a medium gray, not dark, not light, just somewhere in the middle, and I would work light and dark from there, but I would personally start with this base of getting the white covered, but that's just how I like to work. It's not that that's the only way to work. Figure out what works best for you. But I definitely wouldn't work. Okay, good. Gail said Benadryl can make you a bit dizzy. I don't have any in my system right now. I took it last night. But now that it's not in my system, I start getting really nauseated, and so I think that that's what's doing it for me. But yeah, back to the elephant. I definitely think you want to keep in mind you don't need every wrinkle. You really just don't to make it look really good. So I wouldn't work yourself up too much about that being all exact. Tanya said, thank you for all your advice. I finally got the nerve to learn photorealism. Oh, that's awesome. Glad to hear it. Gail said, I do the same thing. I save my good canvases. Okay, we have got to, make a support group, so we stop saving our art supplies and just use them. It looks like a few of us have that problem. Gail said, try local bee pollen. Saved my life with asthma. I do local honey. I used to put that in my tea all the time, but the problem is when I moved here, my allergy, now this wouldn't have helped with the mosquito problem. I was trying to get my foot not to be 800 sizes too big. Like it didn't look like my foot. It was crazy. It was actually kind of scary looking. But I used to do the honey and that worked for flowers, allergies from flowers. But now my allergy in this area, I'm really bad with the oak, and the bee pollen doesn't seem to help at all with the oak allergy, unfortunately. I actually just take Claritin, works really well for that, and that doesn't make me sick at all. I don't have any problems with that, but that wasn't reducing the swelling on my foot, although Benadryl didn't either, so I guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, it works really good for the flowers. When I was having allergies when I first moved to Texas, when I started putting local raw honey in my tea, that really made a difference to the allergies for the floral or flower. Certain allergies it helped with, I should say. Tanya's working on a portrait of her daughter. It's looking great. That's cool. We have to share it in our art group. I want to see. Andrew said, I have a lot of gloss medium. What do I do? Use it? I don't know. I don't know what you're asking. I have a lot of gloss medium. What do I do? I don't know. I'm not sure. Because I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. What is a gallery rep canvas? Molly asks. Let me see if I've got a small one I can grab. I don't. Well, I mean, you can see them behind me. It's basically where the canvas is wrapped all the way around the edges, and you can paint the edges, and it can be hung with or without a frame. I've got some, like the thick ones, the 1.5-inch ones I really like, because those ones you don't put in a frame. You just hang them as is. The thinner ones look best in a frame, even if it's gallery wrapped. But the canvases that are stapled along the edge, that wouldn't be considered a gallery wrap. Mine are, all of those are wrapped all the way around, so they're stapled on the back, not the sides. Brittany says, oh man, I swelled up with mosquito bites a lot. I think I may have developed an allergy. Maybe it's fiber related. Very odd. Started putting a small bit of Ambisol on them. Ooh, that would have probably, I didn't try that. What did I do? Ice packs seem to help a lot. Part of it, I just had to wait. It took like 3 days to go down. But some stuff would make it feel better, but nothing was really, like I did apple cider vinegar. That kind of helped, but then it would wear off. And yeah, nothing seemed to really help. And my hot baths, because I always take a bath at night, the hot water made it so much worse. Oh, that felt horrible. But maybe it is fiber related. I was reading there's a thing called Skeeter syndrome that can kind of pop out of nowhere. It's usually kids, but the photos looked just what was happening to them were exactly what was happening. It can happen to adults, but that may be what it is. But the weird thing is I got a bite a few days later on my arm, and that didn't swell up at all. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a feet thing. It was unpleasant, though. Daryl Grant said, I've been making the same excuse about using expensive materials I bought for the long swell. I'm currently making myself use Stonehenge for the first time, and I'm loving it. Wow, yeah, that's so funny how many of us are saving our art supplies. Yeah, Stonehenge is cool. I like it for some technique. I like it for portraits. Oh, it's nice for portraits. Yeah, JP Sears, he's the one that did the gluten-free. He had another one I watched recently. I was dying. What was it? There was a vegan one where he made a vegan turkey that was so funny. He was hunting his vegan turkey. That was hilarious. There was another one, though. Can't remember what it was, but I was laughing so hard. That guy's hilarious. Rachel says, my name is Rachel, and I'm an expensive art supply hoarder. Support group. Hi, Rachel. Kim said, your mind fills in the blanket, or in this case, the missing wrinkles. The blanks. Wrinkles. So no need to draw each one. Exactly. Going back to the elephants. I have Arches paper, and I've been saying I don't feel I'm good enough to use it. It's not just me. You guys are making me feel better. This is good and bad. We need to use our supplies. Answer a couple more questions, and then I'll get off here before I have another dizzy spell. That's scary. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out on camera. Not that I've ever passed out from my dizzy spells, but I'll like usually grab the wall. But that one was that was a big one. I'm going to have to watch, though. Now I'm wondering how often the Benadryl are during the phases where I get, because I haven't had a dizzy spell in a while. Not to that extent. So I'm wondering, it was bad when I was younger. It was so bad. My parents used to call me Kelly Bundy because I kept walking, like I'd bump into everything, the walls, the everything. Those of you who are old enough, you know what I mean. And my hair being blonde, so that combination, they all called me that because I was so, like, the dizziness would hit me and I would just hit the wall. So it's been a problem but I'm wondering, because I took Benadryl back when I was younger because I was allergic to everything. So I'm wondering now how much, we'll see. Oh, vinegar with baking soda mixed in for the bites. Good tip, Mara. I'm using it for a portrait, the Stonehenge. See, it's good for that. Like, I found that blending the skin tones on Stonehenge, I loved it for that. Like, everything was so smooth. I really was I actually still have a lot of Stonehenge. I need to do a portrait on that, too. I haven't done it in a while. Clarence said, I've completely started and completed I'm not reading that right, a drawing while watching you. That is awesome. Post it to our art group or tag me on it on social media, like do Lachri Live or whatever, and we can all see what everyone was drawing. Gail Perkins says, vegan raw pizza, 100% cucumber. You know what's good? Cucumber sandwiches. Use that instead of bread. But you can put cheese and, what did I put in it? Like, I think there was vinegar. I don't know. It was really good. Which is weird, because you think it's cucumber. Can't be bread. It was good. Tomorrow said, thank you for the shot in the arm inspiration. As always, have a great night. Can't wait to see more of the portrait. Thanks for joining me. Mara's been hanging on to huge sheets of Stonehenge. Freaked out on cutting them down to size. We definitely need a support group. I'm going to use one of my expensive canvases. You're going to use your Stonehenge. We're all going to use our expensive stuff. I have other things. I'm trying to think if there was something else I had too that I was like, I don't want to use this because I think I'm going to be like that with my Caran d'Ache, the museum aquarelles, because those are freaking expensive. And yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to be like that with those too. I need to save them. But anyway, oh, I'm a jerk and forgot till the end again. And I meant to say it at the beginning. Make sure to check out our moderator, Joseph and Valerie. Check out their channels. I've got them linked in the video description. They've both got awesome art channels. You're definitely going to want to check it out. Valerie she's been doing a lot of live streaming too lately with the watercolor on where she does wood burning. It is amazing. Like seriously, I'm going to have to go. Do you have an art? You need to have a shop. I'm going to have to go shopping. But, and then Joseph, he's got really cool stuff. He has some Inktense. He's got some acrylics. I think he's done graphite too, huh? Go check those out. And thanks for joining me. Again, those links are in the video description. The links are all the products that I'm using. Everything should be in the video description if I remember to write everything down right. But yeah, Joseph's making the shocked face. I think that's his not being surprised. I forgot to mention them until the end. I feel like a jerk when I forget to thank them because they help me so much. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week. I don't even know what next week is. Yeah. Bye, guys.